Hi, friends. Okay, I wanted to just do a quick sort of debrief on the Konstantin versus Destiny debate because it was incredible. And also, I did a whole debate prep thing. So I wanted to sort of give my thoughts just overall on how it went. Of course, the watching the person thing. I'm going to watch the final Pangburn edit of the whole thing. And so I'll offer some thoughts on the actual conversation. This is just a quick, again, debrief on the whole day and what happened and my thoughts. First of all, Travis Pangburn deserves so much love for putting this event together. It had to be such an undertaking to do something in an entirely different country. I know he's done stuff like this before, but I guess the overarching goal of bringing a conversation that's so necessary right now to the forefront, it's not an easy thing to do, but it's so commendable. The fact that, I think people would much rather pay for some sort of music concert or a movie or whatever else than some sort of philosophical debate, and to still trust that there are enough people interested in the politics of it and interested in the humanity of this conversation to pay money to come see people have a discussion and just to bank on people's desire for this is so commendable. So shouts to Travis Pangburn for putting this whole thing together. Please follow him on his website and on his YouTube and on his Discord and everything, because there's so much more to come. And they have such a huge repertoire of amazing videos and debates and conversations. And so, yeah, I had to say that first. Another thing is, like, I just answered the call for volunteer work. And I was like, hey, I live in England. I'm happy to come a little early and help. And so I think that's maybe even a lesson to you all watching. If you can, involve yourself in some way, please do so, because you reap so many rewards from it. I got to meet people whose hand I never thought I'd get to shake in person, people who I absolutely consider heroes of mine and heroines of mine. And so it was really a lovely experience. And I don't think I would have been able to get that as just a viewer of the conversation. So to be able to kind of be in the background and helping to set up and, running the merch table, just doing that little extra bit gave me such an amazing, I guess, in to the world of the Pangburn experience. So, if you're asked, hey, can you volunteer? Say yes. It'll come back to you. I tell you, it was lovely to meet Stephen Woodford and have a couple of chats with him. But it was also really amazing to meet Tilly. She's the young woman who debated Charlie Kirk at Cambridge and mopped the floor with him. And she's been, on the circuits, I guess, ever since. And so she's still a student, graduating in a few months. And just what a lovely young lady. Like, it was just amazing to, see that her passion and her energy is very real. It's not just something that she puts on when she's in front of the cameras. Like, she's very, very enthused about the conversations, and if you spark a topic, she's just so quick-witted and happy to engage with you. And so I really had a great time chatting with her. She was just kind. I've always found it so cool when somebody can be absolutely just beautiful, a beautiful person on the outside, but also so lovely on the inside, and it's rare to see. So I was just really happy to meet her. I actually met Glenn Scrivener after the debate as well, and he seemed nice enough, but I think we I don't know. So he came to the table and he was like, "Hey, what are you doing this for?" And I was like, for the fight for truth and freedom, of course. And he was like, "That sounds very religious to me." I was like, "Ah, okay." But no, it was just weird. He just, like, I when it comes to Christians, like, who are true believer Christians, they're just weird people, man. They're just weird people to me, because the inauthenticity It just roils off of them. It's like, you know, for a fact, they need this shit. They need Christianity. They need something to say, this is how you be a good person. Because I don't think that there's anything intrinsic to help them figure that out for themselves. Like me, I'm an atheist. I definitely feel like my locus of morality is very strong. I think I'm a good person. I'm a nice person, but I don't need anything outside of myself to tell me how to be a nice person or how to be a good person. I think some Christians genuinely do. That's why I'll never be like, oh, you shouldn't. Nah, please. Keep believing that you'll only get to heaven if you're not such a piece of shit, you know? But like, I think that's the danger in this whole white Christian nationalist movement in America in particular, because it's saying that to be a real Christian is essentially to be a piece of shit and full of hate. And that, you know, again, if Jesus were to come today, he's the very type of person who you'd want to exclude and shit on. And so it's kind of like, okay, you know, it's a fine line. Like, yes, I think Christianity offers some of these people who are just innately vacuous some sort of tether to morality, sure. But again, when that tether becomes very tainted in in its own right, you know, that's scary. But saying all that to say, meeting Glenn Scrivener, again, like, he seemed very nice and sweet, but I just don't think that was like based on anything other than the fact that he thinks he needs to be. Maybe it was just a sort of mask people put on when they meet new people. I don't know, but it was that same sort of, hey brother, kind of, you know, gosh golly white Christian sort of weirdness that I get from every single last one of them that I've ever met. Like times 10. Just a little bit about me. You would never know it, I don't think, because I do a lot of stuff that's very forward facing, but I am an incredibly shy person. I'm incredibly introverted. I'm very socially awkward, I think. I feel like I know how to get over it well enough to, you know, communicate and enter into conversation with people and have relationships and get on stage and whatever else, but my natural state of being is I just want to be in the house by myself. I even doing this whole stand with Sophie thing. It started with sex with Sophie, and before that I was a rapper. I've always been a marketing and communications executive. You know, so like I've always been in these positions of sort of being the person to deliver the message, to be the face of the PR campaign or the company, whatever. But I don't know how that's possible because I hate it. I hate being in front of the spotlight, and I love people, but I don't like people, and I don't. So meeting new people is really challenging for me, you know. But I think once I'm kind of in it, it's cool. So I maybe Glenn Scrivener's the same way, and he just has to go that extra, like turn on that extra amount to meet people. So I don't mean to shit on him so hard. And honestly, I want to kind of pivot that to me meeting Konstantin. He's very similar. Like he was very inauthentic. It was very much, I'm putting on civility. I'm going to dress in my empathizing and socializing cloak today. You know, it was just weird. The way that I was actually introduced to him was at the end of the debate. They did a poster signing, and so I was, you know, selling merch. So I'm selling his books. So I'm sitting there beside him while he's signing posters and whatnot. And we had to be there for a good 10 minutes before he actually looked over to me and was like, you know, thank you for doing this. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure. I'm glad he was appreciative. He said, thank you. That was nice. But other than that, it was like, he didn't see me at all, you know? And I think that's, again, I don't know if it's just that he's also like me and getting over this sort of introversion that we naturally have. But he said himself in podcasts that he is very much, okay with being the asshole. So I would imagine he's not an introvert like me. But I think, as people were coming up and, I'm making jokes with folks and, um, being really lighthearted and fun, I think he started to sort of see, okay, he sort of seemed to loosen up a little bit and we chatted a little bit. And so then it just sort of was like, okay, I'm trying to also not be my normal ray of sunshine to this guy because he doesn't deserve it. Like he doesn't fucking deserve it. He's a very hateful person. Literally, literally. Okay. I'm going to read you my favorite chapter of his book because, yes, I did take one home. All right, so let's read my favorite chapter of Konstantin Kisin's book, An Immigrant's Love Letter to the West. Stop feeling guilty about race, whiteness, and slavery, chapter 3. Yeah, so, okay. I kind of don't give a shit about this guy. He's not a good person. I'm not going to just punch someone in the face, but I don't want them to be privy to my sunshine. I don't want them to be privy to my light. They don't deserve it. But it's so difficult because then it's like asking me to mask my emotions, and that I will not do. So every time it's like, okay, he finally starts to kind of defrost a little bit and engage with me and kind of make jokes a little bit back and forth. It's kind of like, okay, I'm begrudgingly trying to entertain conversations with Konstantin Kisin. But at the end of the day, I just think it's sad that I can see he's just a human being. He's just a person. He's a small man. And I don't just mean physically in stature. I think in the way that he thinks and conceptualizes the world, he's just a very small-minded and small man. And so that's really where, it was just kind of sad that it creates so much turmoil in somebody like me who is empathetic, who does care about everyone, immigrant or not, and bigot or not. I care about him. I was, he had like security guards there and I was like, good. Yeah. Like I don't want anything to happen to him. But I also feel like, it's sad that I know he would never feel that way about me or about the two Muslim gentlemen who were helping him at the front door, and stuff like that. So it's just sad. So it's a really weird ambivalence to meet somebody who you genuinely know inside and out is a horrible human being, especially when you're not, not to like self-aggrandize or you're seeing my humility on display here, I'm sure, but I'm just saying. And so I guess that leads me then to meeting Destiny. That was such an incredible experience. I feel like for the last year and some change, year and a half, I have been so floored and impressed by this man. The way that he handles himself, the way that he researches things, seeks to learn more, is affable, but also is malleable, like is able to change his mind, is able to listen. I feel like that I was absolutely vindicated in those feelings about this person. Now, I'm very reserved with who I put my flag down to support. But there are some people who it's like, okay, I see you. And yeah, very happy to get your back. And I definitely feel like Destiny is one of those people. And just to let you know, like, if you're feeling the same way, believe that. It's okay to feel that way because it's true. It's real. I know you'll have people in your ear like, oh, he's a Destiny, Pestiny, Sex Pestiny, Molestiny, whatever the fuck. None of that's real. He is such a genuine, authentic, kind man. I was so impressed. I was so floored. First of all, because again, I'm very shy. I'm very, very introverted. And so it's not in me to be like, hi, how are you? So the fact that he's sat down at the little merch table, while things were kind of slow, and my boy Tom that I just met was there with me helping out, and he just started shooting the shit with us, just as nice and sweet. The first thing I fucking noticed, oh my god, he looks you dead in your eyes. Not like a weird, but like he looks at you when he's talking to you and when you're talking to him. And it's weird because I've found that to be so incredibly rare these days. Like it's something I'm teaching my daughter. Like, okay, hey, now look at me. You're talking to me. Look at me. Like I'm really trying to make sure that they don't lose this art of connecting with people in that manner. And so to sit down and Destiny's like, yeah, hi, how are you? And just looking you in your face when he's talking to you was such a noticeable thing. Like, oh wow, this is someone who knows how to engage. And yes, he was an amazing conversationalist. And again, so nice. The first thing he asked was, so what would you guys, this was before his debate. He was like, what would you guys ask Konstantin? What would you think is the most pressing point when it comes to debating him? And I was like, well, I did a whole video on that. And he said, oh, I know. I just didn't have time to see. I was like, what? You actually saw it? So, okay. So I was like, oh my God. So I was like, I think the main things would be that you really want to pull him into the realm of morality because he's going to try and stay fact based. He's going to be real squirmy. So you want to make sure you pin him down, and just kind of was like, yeah, this is what I think. And he was like, yeah, okay, I got you. And then he was like, well, what do you think to Tom? And Tom was like, yo, well, yeah, man, I think, and especially when it comes to like the net zero stuff, because I'm from London and I feel like I know. So, I mean, the fact that I'm sure he in no way gave a shit about what we were saying. Like, he's not going to rewrite his methods of, how he's going to debate this guy 5 minutes before he goes up. But it was just so sweet that he seemed genuinely curious and that he listened to our answers, and we had just a wonderful conversation about it. And then Tilly came, and Tilly offered her thoughts, and just had a really great discussion. I was really fooled. I was thinking, oh wow, Konstantin is this smart guy. I don't know if you saw my debate prep video, but I did. I was saying, he's a smart man, so we're gonna have to, we can't just stick him with this and this because he's gonna probably be too smart for that. Destiny clocked that shit so quick. He was like, "No, this guy ain't that smart." And sure enough, the debate itself, it was just a bloodbath. It was a bloodbath. So let's chat about the debate. So I'm finally sitting down to actually do a bit of a analysis on this. And it's very late. It's already everybody's done their review of this, including Destiny, including the host of this, Travis Pangburn. And so it's late, but fuck you. I have kids, so I have little kids. It's really hard to find the time. But I feel that I have a different perspective than others may because I did the debate prep video. I feel like I can see some things where I can feel like a tactic I would have done is being used to good effect, or maybe where he could have tried a different angle. And so also the fact that I was there and I got to meet him and get a little bit of a behind the scenes view of what happened and how things went down. And so I'm happy to share those points of view as well. I was going to do this as a separate thing, but I'm just going to chunk it all together so you can get, again, just a full behind the scenes picture of what all went down. I do not expect anybody to see this. It's so far past being salient, I think. But I hope it helps when you're moving into debating people like Konstantin or debating people like Destiny. If you are able to sort of see some of the tactics that I mentioned in the debate prep in action. Okay, so just to give you some behind the scenes, we were all just getting ready. This was like right after Stephen Woodford's debate with Glenn Scrivener on Christianity, um, which was really good. And then uh, we had about an hour to kill. Well, we had about 45 minutes to kill. And so me, this lovely gentleman named Tom, Tilly, the debater Tilly Middlehurst, and Destiny, and another crew member, we all decided to go try to find some place to get something to eat. So we went to this little cafe called the Bad Bunny Cafe or something silly. And it took them so long to take our order. And see, I live here. I live in the UK, so I know that for the most part, if you go into a pub or wherever, you got to go to the bar and order or go to the counter and order. But so I walk up and they're like, no, 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 we got it. So they have like a waitress. And she was supposed to come by and get our order and just didn't. And then finally, 30 minutes later, she comes by and gets our order. I went ahead and went back early, hoping that they would at least be able to get something to eat. But it didn't happen. So this is Destiny jumping into this debate on an empty stomach. He doesn't let us stop him, clearly.
Can national identity survive open immigration?
I guess I'll kind of take the reins on this. I feel like when I hear people talk about
I like that he
things related to open
control.
borders, mass migration, or national identity, there's kind of two questions that always pop up in my mind, and I never hear people actually kind of tack down what they mean when they say these things. So the first thing is, for national identity, I don't know as much about the various identities that exist in the UK, but I know for the United States, to try to find an overlap between identity from a gay guy in San Francisco versus like a farmer in Iowa or something, there's not many commonalities there to speak of when you talk about national identity, especially when I'm thinking of it in the context of what type of immigrant would threaten that whatever unified identity, whatever those two things are. So I'm kind of curious, I guess, when I think about national identity, when I think about it being threatened by people, my first question is, what is the national identity that we're trying to protect for the United States or for the United Kingdom? And then
whiteness. White people. Like, again, if you saw the debate prep video, literally, I feel like he's setting the trap. He's setting the trap for him to have to admit that the only thing that he's really talking about here is whiteness, white culture, whatever that is. So I like that he's sort of saying, okay, well, culture could be this largely Venn diagram-esque type thing. So how do you pinpoint exactly what is this undercurrent of culture across an entire country that is mixed with so many different varieties of peoples? So I like that he's kind of starting off addressing what is national identity in the first place, considering that. So it's a good move.
when we talk about like migration or mass migration, what do we mean exactly when we say that?
Well, okay. So there's two questions there. What is national identity and what is immigration? Why don't we start in reverse and talk about immigration? Take Britain as an example, right? So I've lived in this country. I came to Britain it was just about Russia. Prior to that, it was the Soviet Union in 1996. So let's go back to 1991, because that's the data when we have the census. 1991. What has happened in the last 35 years? So in the last 35 years ago, this country had a population of 58 million people. Today, the population is 70 million. Almost all of that is due to mass immigration. So the population of Britain, the immigrant population of Britain, that's first generation, people who've arrived, went from 4 million to 12 million in the space of 35 years, right? It trebled in 35 years. Now,
Okay.
You might say, well, is that a lot? Is that a little? Who knows? That is more people, in the last 35 years, more people came to Britain than came to Britain in the previous 2 millennia. So more people in 35 years than had come in 2,000 years.
It's like saying how big is a hole? Well, that hole's bigger than that hole, but like, how do you measure a lot? Or it makes no sense to me. Also, if you're saying that pretty much 100% of the growth of your country is from immigration and not from the citizenry replenishing itself, I, like you should be on your knees thanking these immigrants for making sure that your population stays at um, a healthy, revitalized level. Like people still have to do these jobs. Once folks die, people still have to, take care of the younger people and the older people as the different life ends of the spectrums come up. And so yeah, I don't see the problem with any of that.
Now, that seems like quite a lot, right? Now, we'll talk about some
Again,
more facts
so
about this,
what?
and we can talk about national identity. I'm going to take a little time, if you don't mind, just to lay
Yeah, I
this
guess
out.
just to kind of poke around as you answer.
Yeah,
'Cause
but
one-
hold on. Let me just let's talk about what we mean by immigration, right? Because
Okay. Well, then also the mass, because I hear a lot of these words will be like, it was a lot of people.
Well, hold
I was
on.
like, what does that mean? Yeah.
I'm explaining it. So
Okay.
more people in 35 years than 2,000
Not very
years.
well.
That sounds like quite a lot of people. Is
Not
that fair?
necessarily, no.
Is that fair?
No, not really, right? In the
Not
context, like
really.
if I were to ask for like the total growth of wealth compared to like the last like 50 years might also dwarf the last 2,000 years, or the total amount of carbon pollution, or the total amount of TV episodes or plays written or songs written. Like I don't know if I would just arbitrarily say I'm going to look at immigration and I'm going to measure it past some 1,000-year thing or whatever.
You don't think that more people coming into a country in 35 years than had come in the previous 2,000 years is quite a lot?
I just think that statement is like vacuous and meaningless. When
Yeah,
we
like,
say
okay,
quite a lot,
okay, it's a lot.
Like, should it have been
So what?
less? Like, what kind of immigrants shouldn't have come?
What does that
What does
mean?
that mean?
It's
You're making it into a moral conversation. I'm talking about purely numbers. You might
What-
think it's a
how is
great
that
thing,
moral?
right? Like,
now he's like ascribing to him something that he's not doing. And even if he was making it a moral thing, like should these people be allowed to, or whatever the case is, like what's wrong with that? Are you not debating? Are you not interrogating this topic? So yeah, it's a weird thing to say, Konstantin.
Well, to be clear, I'm not talking. Just to be clear, real quick, I'm not talking moral.
Keep
You said a
interrupting.
lot, yeah.
You keep interrupting. So,
Okay.
if we talk
Oh,
about
here we
quite a
go
lot,
with
you keep
this.
trying to make it a moral thing.
The
I'm not making a moral
interrupting.
thing.
If we're going to have a conversation, you're going to have to let me finish a sentence at least.
Well, just don't
What's
misquote my position.
Okay,
yeah.
so just calm down for a bit.
I'm super calm.
I know you've got your Red Bull. Just have
I
some
have my
water,
Red Bull.
chill
I'm
out.
still super calm.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a very
Now-
simple question. Yeah.
If more people,
Like you see it in his face, like the stalling, like he's literally looking up in the sky trying to find something to say as he stalls about being interrupted. It happens so much in this debate, you guys.
if you're making a moral issue, it becomes very clouded and complicated. Let's just talk about what we're talking about in terms of pure.
But
numbers,
again, he's
right?
not.
If more people have come into a country in 35 years than have come in 2,000 years, that is objectively a lot. Now, you might think it's a good thing. Like, I like ice cream, and if I eat a tub of ice cream, I'm not going to say that's not a lot of ice cream. I still like it, but it's a lot of ice cream, right? We would accept that. It's more,
The
a
fuck
scoop is
does
not a
this
lot of
have
ice
to
cream, a
do
tub is a lot of ice cream.
with
So
anything?
more people coming into a country in 35 years than had come in 2,000 years is objectively a lot of people. Okay.
Okay, so here's where I think my first note for Destiny would be if somebody spends, we're like 5 minutes in, and it's just been on, you don't agree that this is a lot? You don't agree that this is a lot? I would literally I would take the affirmative position, like literally hold what he's saying to be true, so that not just so you can move on, but so that you can start to uncover the hypocrisy in it. So let's say, okay, sure, it's a lot. How do you ascribe morality to that suddenly a lot is bad or wrong or needs to be stymied in some way? So like I feel like if I were in his shoes, I would have been like, okay, let's hold that to be true, and then let's move forward as if that's the case, and still watch your argument fall apart.
Okay.
Just to be clear, when you say a lot, that's a normative value that's with respect to some kind of norm or when you
No.
say a lot.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
compared to before.
Yeah,
Compared
that's
to the entire
objectively
span of the
that is
history of this country.
objectively true. It's just kind of a meaningless
Well, thank you.
statement. Like
So you've
everything is
accepted-
a lot
you've
more
accepted
than the
that what
past
I'm saying
2
is
millennia.
objectively true. I'm grateful.
Correct. Yes, it's
So-
a meaningless statement, but yes.
Now that we've got there, what does it
God.
mean? Well, first of all, think about
I hate
it
the
like
like
this.
forced agreement. Oh,
And
so
again,
we agree.
it's not about whether you like it or not. Whether
It's like
you
they're trying
think
to
it's a good
slip
thing or
in
not or a
something
bad
else
thing.
that you agree with, and it's
three
just not
biggest
true.
cities in this country in the last 30 years have ceased to be majority inhabited by the people who are native to this land. That's just a fact. And I am one of the people who's come here in that time. So I'm not saying it's
So what?
only a terrible thing, but it's an objective fact. The three biggest cities in the country are now majority minority. London, and this has happened very quickly. London was 80% white British in 1991. It is probably around 30% white British today. So
You hear it?
if you have seen that level
White British. That's all that this is about. And I'm so glad that we're, again, just a little over 5 minutes in, and he's revealing, because Destiny masterfully brought him around to having to confront that this is the literal only thing that he could be possibly talking about. And so it's again, let's hold that to be true. Sure. Okay. So there are less white people, or the non-white immigrants are making the country look less white. Like, again, how are you ascribing a negative morality to this? How are you saying that this is wrong or bad? It makes no sense. Also, is that not the culture of white people? Shouldn't you celebrate when colonization happens, when regentrifications happen? Like, isn't that a good thing according to white culture? Because isn't white culture just going into places with people who are native and taking over that space? You should celebrate it. People are emulating you.
of change in the city in which you live. Think about this as well. 3/4 of the people who live in this country today are over the age of 35. So all of this has happened within the lifetime of one generation, effectively. That is a level of change that is A, completely unprecedented, B, extremely transformative, whether you like it or not, good or
Again,
bad, whatever you
you're
might think. You might
ascribing
think,
morality to
the
that
amount of different kinds
transformation.
of food has got better. It's true, objectively. But it's also true, objectively, the entire swathes of this city are no
Objectively.
longer inhabited by
He keeps saying that word. I don't think he knows what it means.
the people who used to live here. Again, this is an objective fact. You can like it, you can dislike it, but that is something that has happened. This is true of London, it's true of Manchester, it's true of Birmingham, and it's true of several other smaller cities in this country. By 2060, according to current projections, white British people will become a minority in this country.
See, there it is. There it is. That's the fear. And if you have seen my debate prep, did I not say that that's what it is? They worry that these racist people, they understand intrinsically that the way that they exhibit their racism and shit on black people and shit on brown people and treat minorities and marginalized groups so horribly, they are terrified that the second that they're a marginalized group, that the new majority is going to treat them that way. So it's just an admission. It's just an admission that they understand full well how shitty they are. Like, again, not all the whites, but people like him, bigots, they absolutely understand how horrible they're being.
2060 is the next 35 years, right? And
again,
that's
so
the
what?
entire kind of demographic transformation. These are the facts. Forget about people's opinions, my opinion, your opinion. In terms of illegal immigration, there are now almost 1 million. We don't know exactly because it's hard to measure, but we have almost 1 million illegal immigrants in Britain today, which for a population of 70 million is quite a lot. We currently spend 14 million pounds a day spend. I'm not talking about the cost to the taxpayer of having 1 million illegal immigrants here. I'm talking about how much we spend to accommodate them and all other things. Now, 14 million, is that a lot per day? It's quite a lot. But also, this is happening at an unprecedented rate. More people come to Britain illegally today than came legally when I came here in 19.
So he's saying that it costs. I don't get it. He's saying that there's 1 million illegal immigrants, but that somehow tax money is being spent at the cost of $14 per person per day, which is crazy work. But how can that apply to illegal immigrants? Wouldn't that apply to perhaps like asylum seekers or refugees? Like those might be people who have to be put up into a hotel or some sort of a situation where they're needing help or financial stability or whatever the case is. But those aren't fucking illegal immigrants. Those are people who are on a pathway to, some sort of legal route of entry into the country. That's called asylum. Bitch, what the fuck?
96. I'll say that again. More people come here illegally every year than came here in 1996 when I came here. That's the level of
He's
change
conflating
when it
these
comes to
words.
illegal immigration.
Illegal,
And the cost of
asylum,
it, £14 million
refugee.
a day is increased by a factor of 10 in the last 10 years alone. So it's 1,000% more than what it was. Those are the facts about immigration.
It sounds so bad,
when we talk about
1,000%.
immigration and whether it's compatible with national identity, it depends what we mean. If we're talking about 20, 30, 40,000 people a year, highly selective from compatible cultures as it used to be, perfectly compatible, and in fact, I think probably quite desirable. If we're talking about what we've seen over the last 30
Compatible.
years,
Jesus
I don't think it's
Christ.
compatible with any sort of national identity
White.
at all. Now, I've been
White.
talking for a long time, so we can get to national identity after you've addressed that.
Sure. So I guess the thing that is a
You
little
hear
bit
him
strange to
trying
me about
to
the immigration question is that sometimes I'll hear a bunch
dictate
of
how this
descriptions
is
laid
gonna
out,
go?
and I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to do with them. There's oftentimes a lack of a prescriptive statement. It seems like there's a little bit of fear of committing to any particular idea about what an ideal immigrant would look like. And then it feels like we're sometimes also lumping a ton of immigrants together. So for instance, when we say there have been so many more immigrants that have come here in the past 30, 35 years, but then we also mention like illegal immigrants or asylum seekers, these are all different groups of people. So I don't know
I
why.
separated them out. I talked
I know,
about
but why-
legal
You
immigration
didn't.
and illegal immigration, right?
I
But you
understand,
then
so the
talked
prompt
about
that has to do
them
with
getting
basically,
asylum
can
seekers
can
money.
countries, culture, whatever, survive mass migration. Illegal immigrants are not mass migrating here. The mass migration.
They are.
So
I just
then-
told you more illegal immigrants come here every year now than legal immigrants came here 30 years ago.
I understand that, but if you
So
look
they
at
are mass migrating.
so then are the legal ones mass migrating, or what? Is it just?
The legal immigrants are also mass migrating. It's possible for them
But
both
it's
to be
like
mass
10 to
migrating.
1, right? So
Yes.
so comparing the two it seems like we're talking about different kinds of. We're probably talking about different kinds of immigrants. When we talk about legal versus illegal.
We're talking
and-
about both, yeah.
Well, no.
I'm talking about both.
You
Yeah,
don't
we
see
know.
any
You're
difference
conflating
between
it.
a
That's called
legal immigrant
conflation.
versus an illegal immigrant.
Well, of course I do.
Okay.
But they are both mass migrating here. They're both coming here in unprecedented numbers.
Everything definitionally is unprecedented as you move forward in years. We have an unprecedented amount of technology, an unprecedented amount of energy generation, an unprecedented amount of
I think you might be confused about the meaning of the word unprecedented.
unprecedented as in it hasn't happened at that level before. Yeah.
Right. So if we have immigration of 20,000 people a year, that wouldn't be unprecedented because we had that before.
Yeah, but the population is growing of the country. The population of the rest of the planet is growing. The economy is growing. There's a whole bunch of other factors at play. It's not like all else equal. There's just 10 million people that have shown up.
Like randomly.
Like there's other factors at play at all points in time as well. So
Yes.
it's a bit reductive to say like, well, we have an unprecedented wave of whatever. There's unprecedented things happening. Definition.
I think here's where we start to see the mask of intelligence begin to be cracked open. I got pulled in by his ability to be, I'm not going to say charismatic at all, but very articulate, very well spoken. He's got a excellent vocabulary, but the substance underneath is completely missing and completely vapid. And so, when he told me that, he was like, "No, he's not. He's not smart. Don't be fooled." I went into this debate with kind of fresh eyes, and this is where I was like, "Oh, the mask of intelligence starts to slip when he really starts to interrogate his definitions and the fact that they seem to shift from one sentence to another. Like, what is an illegal immigrant? What is a lot? What is unprecedented? Like, literally, it's pretty amazing.
Every year forward into the future we go.
No, that's
Yes.
not true.
What's the thing that's been frozen in time?
I just explained it to you.
Yes, you laid out a bunch of numbers, and I just explained why
No,
they're
I just-
contextless and meaningless. But now I'm asking, what is the thing that's unprecedented?
Look-
or I'm sorry, what would be a thing that is not changing in the past 30 years? Like if you had to look at something.
One of the most amazing things of arguing with anybody from your position is the
Doesn't engage at all. I think he's just trying to derail the conversation Because again, it's like when he's saying, "Oh, you're interrupting." It's just him trying to stall a bit. So this is what just watch. It's just stalling.
The extent to which they refuse to understand what words mean. I just explained to you repeatedly what unprecedented means. It means that it hasn't happened before. There have been
both
times
speak
in the history
English.
of this country when its
We all know what
immigration was
unprecedented
in the tens of
means.
thousands, and for us to go back to that would not be going forward to something unprecedented. It would be returning to something that we used to do.
Sure.
Right?
And my question
and so
is,
what has happened in the last 30
I understand
years
what's happened. You've explained it
is
several times.
unprecedented.
Is there anything in U.S. culture, in British culture, that has remained the same for the past 30, 40, 50, 60 years, for the past 100 years, that doesn't have an unprecedented thing happening constantly?
Absolutely. I mean, that is what a culture is. It is what is preserved over time.
Is it?
How?
I feel like we're just yes, Destiny. Like what? That's my face. Like seriously, what the fuck? Like I that's what a culture is. Like I cannot with this dude. Like the other side of this, right, is that his entire argument, his entire argument is it's too many people. It's a lot of people. That's it. And so it's weird to me. Like Destiny's literally like, okay, if that's your argument, you have to come with something to show that this is bad, that it's objectively or not. Because again, a lot, because he's using that word objective and unprecedented completely erroneously. So it's like we're literally reducing what's supposed to be this deep and thoughtful dialectic into it's it's a lot, but it's a lot of people, Destiny. Why don't you just agree with me that it's a lot of people? And then if he can get him to say that it's a lot, then I think he's doing that. See, I watch my rationality rules with Stephen Woodford. So it's like this Mott and Bailey attack. And in the debate prep, I talked about this being a possibility, and here we are seeing it played out. That the reason he wants to get Destiny to agree to the Mott is so he can protect his Bailey of his racist sentiment. So if Destiny if finally just admits, okay, yeah, it's a lot. That sure, Konstantin, that does sound like a lot of people. Then it's almost like he's shoehorning in his agreement that that's a bad thing. And so it's just it's so schmarmy, it's so wily and tricky and slimy, and the fact that, like, again, I think Destiny peeped it right away is really beautiful. I think the fact that he said what it was right away. When someone shows you who they are, believe them, and he showed us in the first 5, 6 minutes that it's about white people being turned into the minority, and that's the fear for him.
A culture is what people do without having been told to do so by a law. It's,
Can you? Yeah, but what is an example of a culture that is unchanging?
How much have you traveled around the world?
Probably more than you.
Probably not, actually.
Okay. So then you should be able to very easily answer. Well, here's an example of a culture that exists.
Well, every time I try and answer your question, you keep talking over
Well, it's
me.
because when you answer, you ramble and say irrelevant things. So my question
How
is
can I
like,
ramble in half a sentence?
you've been saying plenty of sentences. Do you think the speaking time up to this point is even, or do you think you've spoken more than me?
I have spoken more than you, but I haven't
Exactly. So
interrupted
then you've had an opportunity to speak. You're just not answering my question. So my question is very simple. What's a culture that you feel has been unchanged for the past 50 years? Or what is an example of cultural preservation? I feel like cultures are evolving all the time. It's definitionally a part of culture.
Of course. Cultures are evolving all the time, but if you were to be plonked in 1970s Afghanistan and 1990s Afghanistan and 2010s Afghanistan and 1950s Britain, 1970s Britain and 2010s Britain, there would be common themes that run through both of those places so that you would instantly recognize, I am in Afghanistan, I am in Britain. Would you accept that?
I agree that different cultures are different, yes.
Right, well done. Good. So we've got there then.
I love
Well,
that.
you just established that there are. This
See,
is like
it's
saying
like-
Different
that,
cultures are different, which
We
means
agree.
that they
That wasn't
have
the
something
question.
about them
yes, and
that makes them different.
If
right?
you have a brother, both of you will be different for your entire lives. But
but
that
there
doesn't
would
mean,
be a family culture that you have
But-
that's different to other families.
But you wouldn't be the same as you were when you were 10 years old.
No,
you
you
would grow
wouldn't.
and change,
Of
right?
course.
So when you talk about
But you're still the
preserving
same
culture,
person, right?
What?
You're still the same person.
Yeah, but you're dramatically changed.
But you're still the same.
No. Are you the same as you were 10 or 15 years
Right,
ago?
like,
What do you
what
mean
the
by
fuck?
that? The
I'm
same. You're not unchanged, right?
Are you pretending to be a moron or are you actually being one?
All right.
So you're
First, now that's an ad hominem. That's actually more of a ad personam or ad persona, where he's literally just calling him names for no reason. He's not even saying that that's why his argument isn't valid, because he's not even presenting an argument. That's the thing that kills me right now, is like we're still on Konstantin's assertion that it's too much or that it's a lot or that it's going to change the national identity because it's too many people. And like what literally Destiny's argument is, okay, so tell me what you mean by that. What are you trying to prevent from being changed? What is this culture you speak of that is so unmalleable that it's retained its cultural aspects from 30 years ago or 100 years ago? Like what? You tell me. We're still interrogating Constantine's assertions here. It's insane. So like, yeah, like it's childish.
claim was that we need to preserve
And he
culture
let it
because
roll
cultures
right
aren't
off his
supposed
back.
to change.
I
and then
no,
you're
that's not my claim.
okay, then help me understand. So
Oh, I will, if
because
you
because
stop
if you don't
interrupting me.
remember, this whole topic started with I'm
Stalling,
curious, what is the thing that is
stalling.
precedented? What's the thing that happens continuously through all of history that isn't changing? And then you pointed to the fact that Afghanistan and the United Kingdom are different cultures. Like that's something that I would reject.
No, I didn't. I was just explaining to you what cultures are, which are the cultural differences between groups of people that remain fairly constant over time, despite changing somewhat, as all cultures do.
Your definition of culture is the difference between your culture and another
No,
culture.
I gave you my definition.
You just said it
You
was
did
the
not.
differences
Came here-
between cultures that change over time that
You did
define one
not.
culture against another one.
Okay, let's reset. And
Okay.
you talk for a bit, and then I talk for a bit, and then you talk for a bit.
Well, no,
and
because I
talk
noticed
for a
that this is how it feels like a lot of these types of people, the centrists, the reformers, the MAGA, whatever, is you paint with such broad brushstrokes that by the end of a sentence, I feel like you haven't really said much at all. And I'm just kind of curious why, when you guys speak about things like the preservation of culture, I don't really hear you allude to anything concrete. Or when you talk about wanting to preserve something, you talk about how something has changed. I don't necessarily hear like what are the things that are changing that you don't like. You'll point to things like crimes, but I mean like crimes are illegal. Obviously, they shouldn't be happening. I just don't really hear anything concrete ever, and it's very unsatisfying to listen to a bunch of people kind of ramble on and on and on without ever having a clear point about what they're talking about. So I got
Yeah, like I feel him on this. And also this will come back around later in a very interesting way that surprised me. So I put a pin in what he's saying here, because it's really, really, really deeper than I even knew until after we kind of chatted a bit after the debate, about how he thought it went. So this is kind of an interesting moment to just make note of. Also, just the fact that you'll never be at this man's level, because you're still so small of mind. You're so immature and young of mind that you can't even engage with the conversation that's on your playing field. He's the one who introduced the idea that there's an issue here that needs to be seriously taken into consideration, that there's so many people and too many people, and it's changing the national identity. And that's like, okay. So I kind of feel like in a way Destiny is doing that let's hold that to be true tactic, and saying, okay, so if that's the case, then what is changing? What are examples of cultures that haven't changed? What, again, we're in Constantine's world now. Like he's the one who's asserting these things, and yet we're still having difficulty pinning him down on what the fuck it is that he's trying to say is so bad. And I'll tell you what it is. I've told you what it is. It's just he can't say. He just can't say it because I mean they're in London right now, and Konstantin is, I'll say he's British. He's a British citizen, and he knows very well how stringent they are over here. I live in the UK, and I'm telling you, like they don't play around. Like, yes, there's racism here, yes, but it's nothing like it is in America. It's not even fucking close. And B, it's not a good thing. It's not belittled here. It's taken seriously here. They nip that shit in the bud here. And so there is a part of Constantine, I'm sure, that fears his bigotry being on full display. But what you also aren't hearing is in the audience. I'm sure the mics are just more pointing up front, but in the audience, every time Constantine would say something like, "Yeah, there's just too many of them coming here. The white people are not gonna, be the majority soon," and you'd hear people in the audience very sporadically in a very diffused way, but still, you would hear people in the audience say, "Yeah, yeah, that's right, take," and clapping and shit at the most racist shit. So, again, we know what he wants to say, but he really can't say it in this setting. And also, I think just because he's not really the draw here, like most of the people there were here to see Destiny wipe the floor with him. And yeah, so I think in the face of the fact that he's not speaking to his regular trigonometry watchers. He's not speaking to the majority of the group being bigots like him. He has to temper that. Otherwise, I think he would come right out and say, yeah, I'm talking about the fact that white people are being replaced by all these brown people that I don't like to see. And so that's it.
So I'm just trying to figure out for British or American culture, what are these things that you feel are common? Maybe you go back 30, 40, 50 years that were common across the whole country that you feel are changing in a way that they never changed in the past.
Okay, done?
Are you going to answer that question? He's not going to answer the question. Go ahead.
I've attempted to answer your question many times, and I'll do so again. However,
So smarmy.
first of all, am I going to be okay to speak now for a bit? Is that going to happen?
You've been talking at
Sure. Can you repeat
long
the question first so I
intervals
know what you're-
The
all
question
day,
is about
son.
what is culture? You brought up crime.
That wasn't my question. My
It wasn't your
question is,
question.
over the past 30 or 40 years, what are things that have changed
Yeah.
in American or
What
British
a
culture that you feel over the
reductive
past
way to
200 years
put
before
it,
that
too.
were unchanging?
Okay. One of the things that has changed in Britain over the last 30 years is we now have an extensive number of Islamist terrorist attacks.
I was gonna say
mass
crime. It's
stabbings,
gonna be crime.
mass rape of British girls by Islamist and Muslim grooming gangs. This is not something that happened in this culture before.
Okay, so sexual
So
assault and rape did happen before in
Did you hear the words I said, or did
So
you
you said
take
grooming gangs. I know there's the example from the 80s and 90s of the Rotherham.
They're not from the
grooming
80s,
gang.
90s. They're happening right now.
What is another grooming gang example? Because I know there are rapes and stuff that happen, but I don't think there are.
Yeah, well, let me explain it to you. So grooming gangs, this is a euphemism that we use to pretend that they're not what they are mass rape gangs where young British girls, usually underage, but also often sometimes young women, would be plied with drugs, plied with alcohol, would be taken from the care homes where they were, predominantly by Pakistani, sometimes other Indian subcontinent Muslims. They would be targeted primarily because they were white and British, so these were racially aggravated hate crimes. And they would be mass raped over periods of years sometimes. That did not used to happen in Britain.
So
So that is a cultural
it did used
change.
to happen.
Can I
Rape
finish
didn't
what I'm saying
exist.
already?
But,
You're not gonna answer
oh
my question,
God.
okay.
Yeah.
I am answering a question.
Well, but my question
That is
was,
a
what are examples? I don't think this has happened outside of the Rotherham grooming gang, that whole scandal. There have been rapes, there have been
Which
gang
was-
rapes, but the idea of like
we only know
grooming
about
gang
because
type
it was
Pakistani targeted
stopped
British
and it
girls
was
rapes,
adjudicated.
That type of thing is not a thing that I'm aware has been seen in Britain outside of the large Rotherham scandal.
So, well,
Right, like,
I don't
how do you
I
know,
think the fact that
Konstantin?
somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million British girls might have been raped by these gangs is quite a big
Might
deal,
have
and it
been.
represents a change in the culture. of this
Might have
country that I think is
been.
quite
I never said it wasn't a big deal. I think rape is bad. I just think it's bad when white people do it too. I think it's bad when everybody does it. My understanding is right now for the crime stats in the United Kingdom, it tends to be more white people are even overrepresented in terms of sexual assault and rape. But I'm aware that there are immigrants that rape people as well. I think all rape is bad, but the idea that there is a mass Islamist, jihadist, rape gang-centered thing in the United Kingdom that's functioning,
So
I think
how many girls would have to be raped for you to admit that it's a mass thing?
the question isn't if it's a mass
Well,
thing.
if
The question is
if
if it's
half a
organized. You have a
million
huge
girls-
problem with definitions. I'm
if
sorry, let me try to keep this
half a
back.
mi- if
You're-
half a
you're not
million
understanding.
girls-
You're not following the conversation.
Stephen, you've
Rape
gotta-
is bad,
if
but
half a million-
organized
let-
grooming gang
You've asked
rape
me a
is
lot of
that's a different
questions, and
thing.
every time I answer
Well,
them,
you're
you
not
ignore
answering
my
really
answer.
at all. But
now
go ahead.
answer my question.
Not
Now,
answered
answer
them
my question.
at all.
If half a million girls
He comes up
have
with
been
like
mass
another
raped in this
anecdote.
way,
There's
specifically being targeted because they were not of a
how
particular
do you
religion or ethnicity.
know?
How many of them would have to be treated in this way for you to admit that it's a mass thing? What's the number that makes a mass? Answer my
the question. Wasn't I don't know.
The
How you would,
answer
I
is a
don't know how you
number.
would identify
Give
a
us a
mass
number.
thing.
Give us a
the question
number.
was
Give
organized
us a
grooming.
number. You said
Ooh, he saw the Dinesh D'Souza debate. He saw the Dinesh D'Souza debate with Destiny. That was something that this is like a tactic that Destiny employed, where he just relentlessly asked Dinesh D'Souza the same thing. Basically, Dinesh was like, "Yeah, President Trump is great." Da, 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 da. And Destiny was like, "Well, so you can admit then that because they were talking about tariffs, that when he sat there and put this board of all these tariffs up, that he was lying, right?" And Dinesh was like, "No, he's great. He's using a negotiation tactic." Da, da. So he's like, "So he was lying. He was lying as a negotiation." And he was like, "No, no, no, it's not that. It's just that, he was doing it." And Destiny was like, "So he was lying. It was a lie." So he was lying. He was just relentlessly, in fact, Stephen Woodford, this is probably my third, fourth time mentioning him. He did a breakdown of this exact thing, and it was beautiful. So he finally got Dinesh D'Souza to admit, yes, he was lying, but all presidents lie. And so it was just beautiful because, the whole relentless question asking thing can work. But here we see how it's being employed in a really, really slimy way. You see him saying, "Oh, well, how many was it? Or what's too many? What's too many rapes? What's too many? What makes it mass rape?" He's trying to employ that tactic, but in a way that's slimy. And to what end? And to what end? And so I love this part. Watch this.
100,001. So you're right. You're right beneath the threshold. Maybe tomorrow
Well,
you'll have it.
it's actually-
So the question is
it's
there
actually
organized?
between half a million. It's half
Just
a million.
not
and
even
a million.
entertaining
I'll
this
ramble for a
bullshit.
second and then you
That
can
it's
ramble
mass.
after.
Not
So
entertaining this
my
pivot.
issue is because you guys, you do this thing over and over again where you won't accurately identify a problem. You'll invent these things because rape isn't bad enough. Now it has to be like a mass grooming gang rape thing. And then what happens is you conservatives, you play this game where you falsely identify a problem, you lie to the audience about it, and then you manage to gain power. You go through with some wacky scheme. Go figure, the wacky scheme doesn't fix anything, and then somehow you come back with the same recycled narratives over and over again, asking for another shot at it. It's happening right now with Farage and reform. It happened with Brexit. Brexit didn't reduce immigration. It didn't help you with your economy. It didn't do anything really good for the United Kingdom at all. And then it's happening now with reform coming in and making all of these promises to the British people that you're going to be able to cut all of the revenues coming in. You're going to be able to increase all of your funding. You're going to have a no-wait NHS. And it's all built on the same lies over and over again that didn't help you affect any positive outcomes in the past, and it's not going to help you affect any positive outcomes in the future. You can sit here and you can be upset about it, but I watched you and Matt Goodwin debate on stage where you guys both made the bold prediction that once the Tories were out, your immigration numbers would be over 1 million per year. They plummeted to 300,000. I haven't heard you say anything about that. Your predictions were completely wrong, just as they were with Brexit as well.
Like, to hear the claps is crazy because, like, almost consistently throughout, there are people.
Well, that was a wonderful presentation.
clapping and saying
The
stuff,
problem
so
for
that-
you is I voted Remain in the referendum.
Because you hadn't been bullied by the Cambridge students yet. I'm aware of the history, but I know.
So, you've come here with a bunch of talking points. That's great.
Hold on. We can break down
Stephen,
anything you want.
stop
Don't accuse
interrupting.
me of having talking points.
Stop
Deal with my
interrupting.
arguments.
Stop interrupting.
Then address what I
Stop
said.
interrupting.
Address what I said.
Stop interrupting.
Address what I've said.
Stop interrupting.
I believe in you.
Stop interrupting. I let you talk and I let you make your points. Have some respect for me and for my opportunity to express myself as well.
Stalling,
That is
stalling,
how a debate is
stalling,
conducted. So stop
stalling.
interrupting. We started this with a conversation about mass
Stalling.
immigration, and I gave you the facts on it, and I defined what immigration is, right? Mass immigration. Now, you're talking about culture. I also explained to you what
A lot
culture
of
is,
people.
and I explained it to you by explaining that it's a continuity of certain things, which may also evolve over time. Now, in terms of your point about mass immigration since Brexit, I was not a supporter of Brexit. I didn't think it was necessarily.
Okay, like he's just like, okay. I don't think I would have gotten this far if I were in Destiny's shoes. Like, I would have had to have interrogated why he gives a fuck. Like, I know why he cares. I know what it is that he actually really cares about here. But again, sweet summer child that Destiny is, you hear him like, well, that doesn't make sense. And what you're saying here doesn't add up. And this argument isn't valid because of this. Like he's employing his logic as usual and to good effect. Don't get me wrong. But again, Konstantin never logicked his way into hatred. He never logicked or reasoned his way into espousing this deep-seated bigotry for Black and brown people and Muslims. And what's so crazy, right, is literally like sitting outside the door are these two lovely, lovely, lovely Muslim gentlemen who are keeping this motherfucker safe. Like they were at the door checking everybody's bags, making sure that everything was good. I had a chance to chat with one of them. I got into an amazing conversation with one of the doormen, I guess bouncers, if you will, who is Muslim, and his name is Khalil, and he was phenomenal. So, you know, he was like, "What is all this about anyway?" Like, it was two Muslim gentlemen who were at the door. And we were basically like, well, the main event of this is the person who really doesn't want you here versus somebody who's really trying to shed light on why that's ridiculous. We were going to get some lunch, and I was like, hey, guys, you guys want anything? And they were like, oh, it's Ramadan. I was like, oh, shit, my bad. You know? So when we got back, I was like, oh, I'm so sorry about that. And they were like, no. Hearing the Christianity debate and just in the vein of apologies and forgiveness, that's where we got into this conversation about how in Islam, forgiveness isn't about seeking God's approval or his forgiveness. It's about seeking forgiveness from the person that you've wronged, and that you can't get God's forgiveness until you have rectified whatever situation occurred with the human that you have wronged. And so I just think that was such a beautiful thing. And I told him, I said, you're kind of like moving Islam above Christianity for me, because I've always abhorred that about Christianity, that you can be such a piece of shit, but feel confident that you're still going to seek some sort of final reward just because you sought forgiveness from God. And I think it just omits the fact that, you know, we live in this real world, and you have to seek forgiveness from the people who you've harmed. And that's what Islam promotes. Another thing that he said that just really gave me such a high estimation of Muslims was that, you know, if you are in a community and they consider the community, the 40 homes in front of you, the 40 homes behind you, the 40 homes to the right of you, the 40 homes to the left of you, it's a circumference of community that you are responsible for. And so he was saying something like, it's not just that you have to feed the hungry. It's that you have to know that they're hungry. You need to know your neighbors well enough to understand when they are in trouble, when you can offer assistance. And when you offer that assistance, it has to be at the same caliber that you would want. So you can't just say, here's a can of lima beans. See, I fed the hungry. No, you have to sit them at your table and treat them just as you would want to be treated. So I just thought that was like, that's the golden rule. That's the step beyond the golden rule. And I think that's just phenomenal. So I love that there are so many more applications of care and empathy and humanity in Islam, according to, you know, this gentleman, just more than I've ever seen from Christians or Christianity. So I was telling him, like, I was like, unfortunately, like, I'm an atheist. I said, for me, it's literally like, I'll never re-believe in Santa Claus, but I can absolutely understand and appreciate your desire to have a connection with something deeper, and that in doing so, your religion seems to offer much more in the way of true faith and a true connection to this world. So it's just really beautiful. And I'm sorry, I'm super red. My curtains are red and the sun's going down. Sorry about that. But anyway, so I thought that was really beautiful, and it was a great conversation to have while the Christian versus atheist debate was sort of going on in the backdrop. To know these two Muslim people are keeping him safe while he's just shitting all over them is so wild to me. Like, what a shit human being he is.
A good idea. And I agree with you that it hasn't reduced immigration. But I don't see how that's relevant to this conversation. We have had mass immigration happen in this country continually over a long period of time, which has changed the country in the way that I gave you. And I gave you a number of examples, like Islamist
Yeah, I would have been
terrorism,
like,
grooming gangs.
so why do
and
you
other
think
things, which I
this,
don't think
like,
you were
what?
able to address because they counteract the argument that you keep making, which is, well, nothing changes when you bring in 8 million people over 30 years.
Did I say that?
Can I finish, please?
Did I say that?
Can
Why do you
I
have to
finish?
invent
Can I finish,
points?
please?
You
Can
just
I
can't
fin-
address anything.
Can I
say?
finish,
Okay.
please? If I
Well, pretend
interrupted
it's a
you,
podcast
if I
episode. Go ahead.
interrupted you every
Make a
time you
position for me.
misrepresent my
Go for
argument,
it.
you'd never talk at
Go
all.
for it. Okay.
So can I finish, please? You made the point that basically what I'm trying to say is, not trying to say, what I'm saying is, when you bring in large numbers of people into a country from a different culture, that will necessarily change the culture. The other thing that I explained to you is there's been such a large wave of
So
immigration
what?
into this country now that has fundamentally changed the sense of British people about the place in which they live. It is
Again, in the debate prep, I literally lifted this up. Like, what is, so what? So the fuck what? Like, the only thing he can attribute, like, negative to this is that, oh, there's this increase in crime. There's this increase in crime. There's not. There's not. But like the only thing he's really trying to say is bad is that it's pushing out white people or diminishing the national identity of white people or changing the culture of white people. And so the fuck what? His comfort is more important than these people's lives, survival, well-being, their children's lives. Like, he's literally saying that I don't like this. I don't like this. So they shouldn't come over here because I don't like it. They're changing my culture. It's making me uncomfortable. I don't like it. That's it. That's his only fucking reason. So let's juxtapose that against people who, in the worst of cases, are probably coming to like France or Europe on rafts that could sink in the ocean at any moment, maybe coming from a war-torn area or so impoverished that they have to seek a new home because their home where they were born and are trying to raise their families perhaps is no longer livable. Like, in the worst case scenarios, that's less important than his comfort.
you is there's been such a large wave of immigration into this country now that has fundamentally changed the sense of British people about the place in which they live. It is
So
affecting
what?
the demographic dynamics of major cities in this country and the way people feel about that. But all of those things that
It's the
facts that I
same
gave
shit
you
in
about
America.
immigration-
Oh, we don't want to talk about slavery because it'll make white kids feel bad. It makes everybody so uncomfortable. This whole comfort thing. It's crazy to me that that's given credence. It's literally like, what's the Carl Sagan quote? Like, your ignorance is just as much as my intelligence, or something to that effect. It's literally your comfort is just as much, means just as much as my survival. Like, that's nuts.
They are what they are. You can think that they're good. You can think that they're bad. That is a separate conversation. The facts
Is it
are
though?
what they are. right?
We know
There's
what you
also
think they
a thing
are.
about how British people feel about
They.
it. When I came to this country in 1996, 3% of the British public thought that immigration was a major concern. Today, about 65 to 70% of British people say that there are too many immigrants in this country and too many immigrants coming here. Now, I think
I've
British
lived
people
here
probably have a
for
better
3
idea
years. Never
of,
heard this.
how they feel about immigration than you, Stephen, and that is how they feel.
Why do you think over half the British population believes that?
I believe him though. You know what? Let me take that back. I believe him because he's a white man who undoubtedly has a close-knit circle of other white men. He's a bigot. He probably is friends with bigots. I'm sure that 60 to 70% of the people surrounding this motherfucker absolutely do believe immigration is a country. But again, he's using these like anecdotal polls. Like, where is this statistic? And honestly, if it exists, like it's literally because of people like him. Because of people like him who have money and have prestige and have a voice and have a platform using it to shit on the least of us. It's insane.
The majority of the immigrants here today are here illegally, if they've got such a great handle on it or a great idea about what immigration is doing to the country?
The reason that people overestimate immigration is people generally, when asked about things, overestimate pretty much everything or underestimate things terribly.
What does that mean?
Numbers. But the
How does
other
that
reason, of
explain
course,
it?
people aren't able to quote you the exact number of people who
I didn't ask for a quote of the exact number.
You said this earlier, and I'm addressing your broader point, which is why do people misunderstand the immigration statistics? Is that people don't look at immigration as this is the number of people who came this year, and this is the number of people who came last year. They look at the reality of their lives, they look at the change they see around them, and what they're really concerned
And they're
about
uncomfortable.
is the cumulative impact of immigration.
It makes me
over the period of
uncomfortable.
their lifetime, which, as I explained to you, has been huge, unprecedented over the last 35 years, and will be even more unprecedented in terms of its cumulative impact over the next 30
On my
years. Now,
comfort.
it's true that immigration has come down to 300 or something thousand in the last year. Doesn't mean it will stay that way, but also I never predicted it would get to 1 million. I think Matt did. But the point I would make is the transformation over a 30-year period is what people actually care about, and which is what they're right to care about. Now, as for the point about illegal immigration, yeah, it's true. Illegal immigration is a smaller percentage of the total immigration that we have than legal immigration, but it's still higher today than it was 35 years ago and 30 years ago,
Again,
which is way
so
too
what?
high. Illegal immigration should be zero. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Do we have any final thoughts before we move on to the next?
Yeah, I mean, every crime should be zero, but there's always going to be some amount of crime or some amount of illegal immigrants.
Exactly.
I guess the issue I have is that, you say, why do the British people not understand the exact numbers? I didn't ask for the exact numbers. It's like 10 or 11 million to 1 million. There are different estimates from 500,000 to 1.3 million or whatever illegals. That's a big ratio, 10 to 1 to be off by, to assume it's 50-50, or that there are more illegals than there are legal immigrants here. And I think the issue is people in your position, or people like Reform or Restore, depending on how far right you want to go, lie constantly about the immigrant population.
What did I
in
just
the
say?
United Kingdom.
What did I just say?
And then as a result of selling those lies to the people,
Sorry.
you get these ridiculous plans or attempts to fix it all in the United Kingdom. And because the problem was never as severe as it was stated in the first place, the problem ends up not being solved, and then you exacerbate other problems. So at the end of the Tory government, with this attempt with like the Rwanda plan, this idea that you're going to ship people to other countries to have them processed first, or with the idea that leaving Brexit would give the UK greater control over their illegal immigrant population. And the reality is it did just the opposite. You didn't have the right to access the same people that were trying to claim asylum in the EU, and then if they were rejected once there, to send them back if they came to Britain next. You lost access to a lot of these things. And then
It's so far above his head.
those ideas are now telling you and selling you on the idea that reform is going to come in and somehow fix the very same issues that they've been lying about and have failed to fix in the past. And you might hear this talking point, this cope that, well, reform is different. We're not going to be like, the old conservatives. But then you've got, all your politicians are going to be MP Tories that are defecting to join the new reform party. So I don't know where all this new blood is going to come from. I don't know. It just seems like a whole bunch of like, here's a fake problem. I'm going to put it in front of you. There is like a real problem here. Regardless of what you said earlier, I don't think rapes are good, mass rapes or normal rapes. I think there should be some probably cap on
I
what
used
type
to
of
think
immigrants
rape was
and
funny.
how many should come to the country. I just never really hear a discussion on any of that I just hear 500,000 British girls have been gang raped by mass grooming gangs, and it wasn't like that when I came over in '96, despite the fact that those Rotherham grooming gang scandals started in the '80s. So I don't feel like I ever hear anything of substance being spoken about.
That was a fucking slam dunk. That was a slam dunk. Get it, Destiny.
It's a pity we didn't have someone from Reform on stage so you could rehash your Wikipedia.
Oh, here we fucking go. Here we fucking go. Here,
You're a
this
voter, though, right?
No.
This starts the fucking next phase of his obfuscation, right? I'm not reformed, but you talking to all these people about this thing that I clearly don't believe in, even though I clearly do. And just like before, when he's trying to say, oh, it's just it's not anything other than that they're gonna change the now. I love him. Okay, so I don't have a lot of time left. Again, I have kids. He's gonna go grab the girls. Okay, so I'll stop when they get home. Let's just get through what we can get through. um, but basically what I was saying is like in the same way that earlier he was like, well, it's because it's pretty soon the white British people are gonna be the minority. And the reason that scares him so much is because he knows full well how the current majority treats the current minority, and there's this just deep-seated fear of how they're going to be treated should they become the minority. Again, it's irrational. I feel like if there was ever going to be evidence of how that would have actually played out, it would have been once slavery ended and you didn't see black people just rise up and mark every single white person that they came across. It just doesn't happen. Like like the only people who have this cruelty are these white bigots, So it's just unfathomable for them though that should they be the minority, they won't be treated this way. And it's the same fucking shit with this whole I'm not gonna claim that I'm reform or that I'm conservative or that I'm alt-right because he knows full well how shitty that position is and how like awful that is. So he doesn't want to have anything to do with that label because he knows how much it just signals that you're an evil piece of shit, that you're a fundamentally bad person. And so that's where this is coming from. This whole next little chunk here is just him saying, yes, I can act and talk and speak and espouse the beliefs of evil people, but I'm not an evil person. I'm not evil. I'm not evil like them, like it's really weird. If it were so noble and aspirational, wouldn't you be fucking proud? I'm a very proud liberal. I'm a very proud leftist. I'm very, very proud. I'm a very proud Democrat. I proudly voted for Joe Biden. I proudly voted for Kamala Harris. These motherfuckers, it's like they can't claim it. Like like later on, he actually will say he voted. If he had the choice, he would vote for Donald Trump. But then he says, "Oh, it's just the smaller of the two pieces of shit. It's a smaller pile of shit." So he tries to shit on the candidate that he supports and says he would support. So it's like, you don't even have this faith in these people or this party or this institution because you know how evil and bad they are. And yet you still choose to spew the very principles, the very like policies. I can't even say the fucking word because there's none of that exists. The very like ideologies, the rhetoric of this side that is evil. Like he's just telling on himself.
I've never voted for reform.
I've never voted for
Would you vote for reform in the upcoming election?
It depends on who stands in my constituency. Last election, I voted for a Liberal Democrat.
I didn't ask about last election. In the
Okay.
upcoming election, will you vote for reform?
I will probably vote for the same person who's a Liberal Democrat.
Okay, so you don't think you would support the liberal reform guy? I don't know, in your
Liberal
constituencies?
reform. There's no party called
Or,
Liberal
I'm sorry,
Reform.
you won't support the reform candidate in whatever upcoming election. I don't
He's
know what
like,
constituency you live in.
I just
Yeah,
told
there's
you
no
that
su-
at the last election I voted.
He knows
for
what the
Liberal
fuck
I
he
know,
meant.
The
And
reason
at
why
the
you're
le-
saying that is because you
stop
won't answer for the next
interrupting.
one.
Stop
You're
interrupting.
totally question
Stop
dodge.
interrupting. Stop interrupting.
Yeah, go for it.
I just told you that at the last election I voted for a Liberal Democrat, and at the next election I.
It's like he's
intend to vote for him as well.
infantilizing him too.
I'm just curious. You said in the past.
Stop
that you
interrupting,
regret-
like you're
well,
a
not that you
fucking
regret that you voted,
professor.
Remain for Brexit. Do you think that was a good vote? Do you think you should have remained, or do you think Brexit was a mistake?
I don't regret my vote for Remain. No.
Do you think Brexit was a mistake?
I think it had its negatives and positives. Yeah. Like.
Are you sure you're not running for a political party right now? Because that was the most politician answer I've ever heard in my life. Do you think that on net was Brexit a mistake?
Wow.
Every decision has trade-offs that are positive and negative.
Remember what I said earlier?
What
was
the
saying
fuck
words
was
that mean
positive
things
about
obviously this is
Brexit?
True, but
No,
I'm asking, do you
I-
think that Brexit on net was it a mistake?
I think a lot of people think that
He
Brexit
just
ruined the
can't
economy.
say
Asking what a lot of people
yes.
think. I'm asking you on net. Do
I-
you think that Brexit was a mistake?
I think it had some things that made things worse, and I think it had some.
My
You
God.
were God, and you could choose
The
whether or not
audience.
The UK voted
You could hear it
51% Brexit
when you
or
were there. It was
49%
like,
Brexit.
what?
Push the button to have had them vote. 51% they would Brexit, or 49% and then they would remain in the European Union.
I honestly don't know.
Okay, but this. So the reason why I asked this question is to illustrate. I asked this question to illustrate how frustrating it is when people like you say things like, "Well, I voted Liberal last election," or "I voted Remain." Okay, you don't stand by that anymore, though. You
No, I
constantly
do.
do this thing. No, you don't. You constantly do this thing where you come on stage or you go on your show and you'll say things like, "I used to be a liberal, but the liberals have changed so much," or "I used to be a
Never said
left-leaning
that.
person."
Never
and the
said
left. I know you've tweeted the
I've-
dumb picture.
I've
I
never
know you've
said-
done it.
I
They've
have-
changed so much, and now I have to identify with the center right. I've heard you literally say things like Tommy Robinson makes statements to the left on immigration compared to Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama.
does.
Yeah. Okay.
He does.
I've heard you say
That's a
things like this,
fact.
right? But then when
That's a
I ask,
fact.
but then you guys say that everybody else has changed, and then I ask you about your past political votes, you won't defend them. So it seems like you're the one
I
that's
do
changed,
defend-
which is fine, but you should just own that.
I voted
should just
Remain for
own
reasons
that.
were entirely different.
But
from
he
the
knows
reasons
that
most
would
people
mean
voted
he's
for
an
Remain.
evil
The reason I
piece of
voted
shit.
Remain is I thought that it would weaken Europe's ability to stand up to Russia. I think I've been proven right on that. And I think the division within Europe has made Europe weaker in terms of its ability to stand up to Russia, and I think we've seen that. So in that respect, I think I was right to vote Remain. What I don't agree with is the narrative that a lot of people like to spin, that Brexit ruined the economy. I don't think that's true at all. If you look at the way other European economies are performing, they're performing even worse than the British economy. So my attempt to give you a nuanced answer is not my refusal to stand by my votes. It's an attempt to use my brain and give you a nuanced answer. Now, in terms of final, did you want to wrap up and move on?
Yeah, just
Look at him like, let's move on. Let's move on.
Yeah, so final thoughts on this topic. I would just recap and maybe add one other thing. We have had a level of mass immigration into Britain that has been extremely disruptive over a fairly short period of time.
That's his whole
That has
argument.
created an
Disruptive
environment
how?
in which major cities in this country are effectively no longer the
White.
domain of the native population of this country, which is very
White.
disruptive to the people who've lived here. I'm not one of them. I
It's,
myself
it makes me uncomfortable.
recognize that that's happened. I
I'm
think culturally
uncomfortable.
There have been some terrible things that have happened. I mean, the example of terrorism and grooming gangs is just one of them. But the failure of integration more broadly has been a big problem to the point
It's
where
like-
we now saw in the
Does he think that Muslims invented terrorism? Like he lives in England, man. Like in fact, okay. My husband, who's British, he was laughing at me because I was like, "Dang, we got to take our shoes off now." 9/11 really did a number on and he was like, "Yo, we've had to make these sort of concessions forever because of the IRA and shit like that. Like these things did not exist like in some kind of Muslim bubble that just burst when a certain level of what he deems to be mass migration of Muslims came over. Terrorism existed, rape existed, mass rape existed, grooming existed. And to be fair, if he actually looks at the rate at which Destiny tried to say, the rate at which Muslims versus that native population he loves so much perpetuates these crimes, And they are crimes. It's not like they're fucking given credence to do this just by coming over here. It like the immigrant population commits these crimes at a fraction of the rate that white men in particular do. It's nuts.
Election and Gordon Denton, the Green candidate, campaigning in Urdu in a foreign language, in a language not of our country, which I think is a signal.
So
of
there
terrible-
is no fucking official language in England. Just like in America before Trump last year made the official language of America English, which will be overturned as soon as there's a new president, and if we get that far. There's presently no official language in the UK. So you can come and speak whatever the fuck you want. It's not like you have to assimilate in this regard. So what the fuck are you talking about?
divisiveness that is we are likely to see in other communities.
Again, I don't
in
like
other
to hear another
constituencies where
language.
some communities haven't integrated at all.
They haven't integrated.
And I think what that
They haven't
signals
assimilated.
is
I don't like it.
It
makes me uncomfortable.
When people vote on the ideas that are being offered to them, not the ethnic and religious background of the candidate or the things that they will tell them. And I think you're increasingly seeing that. So all of these things are big worries to me. And of course, a lot of this
Because they make me
would have been
uncomfortable.
much easier to manage if we hadn't also at the same time had the doctrine of diversity, inclusion, and multiculturalism, which have, instead of creating a monoculture into which people are encouraged to buy in and integrate, have instead created a society in which people...
When has that ever been the aim? When has that ever been the fucking goal? Like ever. This nigga lives in England, excuse me. He lives in England. The place that went to Africa and India and Jamaica and fucking the Caribbean and Canada and like America, like literally went to all these different cultures to acquire their, people, their foods, their spices, their knowledge, their resources. They like, if you're talking about the native population, these people love bringing in shit from all over the place and new stuff and incorporating it into British culture. So what the fuck are you talking about? Does he not understand what the Commonwealth is or what that means?
People are encouraged to see themselves as members of an individual community,
White.
which I think is essentially the end of a democratic process the way we've understood it to this point. So I think these are all terrible developments, and if this continues...
It makes him uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable. I don't like it.
I mean, we introduced new things, so I don't know. I don't know what the monoculture
How many
is.
final thoughts are we going to have?
Well, I mean, when we introduce new concepts like DEI, which is why Liz Truss,
Destiny didn't even start his.
100,000 people come to this country from mainly non-EU places. I just don't know how DEI was the policy there from the Tories that enabled all that mass migration. And when we talk about the monoculture,
You're right,
I don't know about the United Kingdom. I mean,
who's interrupting who?
Like
Who's interrupting who?
I feel like rural people and city people don't have much of a monoculture. I don't know if they've ever had a monoculture. I know in the United States, we talk all the time about the difference between city slickers and the good old people in the country and doing the farms and everything. But then we're also simultaneously very concerned about demographic change in the cities. But then at every other point, it seems like the country-related people hate the urban-related culture anyway. So yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting at some point, maybe at some time in your life, if you ever wanted to dive into these issues for real, maybe on your show or with somebody you're more comfortable with who won't challenge you as much. It'd be interesting to hear a conversation about what do these values look like. When you talk about changing culture, and the answer is, well, some people bring crime. That's not culture. Like changing culture would require you to identify some fundamental aspect of the culture of a country and then to point out to how that fundamental aspect is changing. When you say immigrants are coming and a lot of them commit crime, it's not really a real answer. It's not very satisfying. It's not really getting to the heart of the issues. And
Shall we move on to wokeism?
Sure.
Okay.
So the question is,
I would love to continue. There's about an hour and a half left. And honestly, it kind of gets to a point where You know what? I want to go till we get to the infamous crash out, if I can. But I do have some final thoughts that I probably won't be able to, because it's Friday. So once Cloud is home, my 6-year-old, I'm not going to be able to talk to y'all for a bit. So let's just see how far we
Speaking
can
of
get.
culture, has wokeism caused harm to the political climate?
Do you want to go first again?
He's so passive aggressive.
My question is going to be the exact same as the last one. How do we define wokeism? And can we name like 3 woke policies that we think are destroying Western culture?
I wish you'd said that with the DEI. Like, what is the DEI that was so bad?
Debate, so why don't you define them?
Well, the thing is, I can't, because your guys' definitions for everything change at all points in time. That's always the issue.
The
It's always
goalpost
frustrating thing when it
shifts.
comes to fighting
Who's us guys?
conservatives.
I'm not a conservative.
I know you
so-
say you're not, but the conservative identification of wokeism and the idea that wokeism, whatever
Let's
that
forget about
boogeyman-
conservatism. Let's
Okay.
talk about wokeness. So
Okay.
what would be your definition of wokeness?
in the broadest sense, usually it's social issues that are very, very far left of the norm, I guess. But these positions in the United States, at least, tend to be held by.
Such as?
It might be certain.
He
things
seeks
related to,
specificity
trans
from
people are
Destiny,
obviously
but
not
offers
go-to topic
none
for
himself.
everybody. It might be things specifically related to trans people. It might be things related to. They call it CRT. Now they call it, or there was affirmative action, then CRT, then DEI. It might be people who are socialists, about the economy, or whatever that means to people. It really depends on where you're at, who would consider what woke, or what the conservative boogeyman of the day is.
I don't know what the conservative point of view. So your point of view is that wokeness is about trans people and DEI?
That seems to be the case when I look at conservatives.
So that's
cry
your
about it.
definition.
I don't define things as a wokeism. It seems like a really vapid, stupid definition. I would just talk about the issue or the policy
I
itself.
guess your issue is with the topic of our debate then.
Well, no, because I think that you obsessively talk about wokeism, so it's probably a good thing for us to have a discussion
I'm asking
on.
you to define it so that instead of continually asking me questions and then pretending not to understand my answers, we actually address your argument. So
If you feel like there's an answer I don't understand, you can feel free to ask me to explain your answer. I can do it with ease. They're very simple. You only need the cognitive power of like a 9-year-old to understand them. So
your
What'd I say?
definition of
What'd I say?
wokeness is, again, just coming back to it. So,
What?
so we're
If you
clear
take
about
the
what we're
median's
No.
view on,
Now this
on
is
social
pedantic.
beliefs, the things that are to the furthest left, or the most progressive,
Dead
most
domain.
college
This
student,
is
young things,
this is
tend to be
pedantic.
around like gender things or minority issues or LGBTQI whatever
Okay.
status. These tend to be like things that people identify as woke.
So what we're discussing in this section of the debate is whether far left politics and progressivism has ruined society. Is that the discussion?
Yeah, sure.
What would you
It
mean?
was the
Yeah,
question was
sure.
on wokeism.
Right.
The issue is
And I got you to define it as far left progressivism.
yes.
So
Insofar as I would define it, I don't see it as a major threat, at least to the United States, because I don't think that the people that tend to hold these views have any real political power. It tends to be college kids and people.
Even
on
look at the
Twitter.
cat.
But
What's her
conservatives
friend?
are
Algebra
very
or
concerned about
whatever.
this, and they talk about these issues all the time.
Same thing.
And then they use them to power their
Progressives
policies
don't
that
have
make being even
power.
more regressive than the super woke stuff was progressive, because it wasn't really manifesting in a real way anyway. And now I have a country where
Right. And then couple that with like progressives being the example of what conservatives try to act as the norm. So they attack that, and then progressives have no power, but they face the attack from the right. So then not only are they unable to get a foothold into any kind of power, which they didn't have in the first place, but the conservatives get a win because it looks like they defeated something that never actually was an issue in the first place, trans, whatever the fuck. And then couple that with what Destiny was saying earlier, with how conservatives will just fucking lie and promise the world and promise things that are in line with the hatreds that these fucking people share. Oh, we're gonna get the immigrants out. Oh, these trans people. It literally, they lie about what they're going to do with these fake made up problems. They get into power, blame their ineptitude in changing any of this shit on the left, lose power, and then do the same thing. It's like wash, rinse, repeat. So the poor progressives get it from both ends. They get it from both ends. And that's what he said.
half the states don't really have the ability to get an abortion for women because people thought that every 4-year-old was being forcibly transitioned to another gender. That's my
Right.
issue with it.
Well, that's your country and your issue. But just coming back to our definition, so that we can know what we're discussing.
Christ.
What you're addressing is, has far-left progressive politics had a
As
negative
if the
impact
whole
on our
fucking
society?
anti-trans
That's how you
turf shit
understand
isn't
this,
encroaching
correct?
on
Am I going to say yes here?
The
You're gonna
UK.
Go, I'm glad you agree that wokeism is far left.
No.
Yeah, I guess that's yes. That would be my understanding of this discussion.
Okay,
Yes.
so
yes.
good. Now we know what we're actually.
and he thinks
discussing.
he's got
So,
some kind of
in
win.
terms of its impact, I mean, one
Mott
of
and
the most
Bailey.
obvious things, and I brought
Wait, what
up.
is your definition of wokeism?
I agree with you. I agree with your definition.
Okay. All right. Okay. I think it's okay to agree on a definition to have the discussion, right?
That's why I did it, so that we could agree on the definition.
Oh, okay. It felt a little bit more passive aggressive than that, but my bad.
Well,
I just
that's your
interpreted it
bad.
that way.
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
I just, I've worked out the tricks that you play, and so I've trapped you in your own logic.
And to be clear, the trick that I just played was asking you for the definition of a term.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. All right, my
That's
bad.
right.
I
That's
know that
right.
we don't like that here.
exactly
Okay, my
right.
bad. Okay, go ahead.
Exactly right. Because what you do is you don't define it yourself, so that you can then argue with my definition for half an hour, and so we can't have the actual debate. Now be quiet, and I'm
I'll
going to
define my terms.
He's the one
You
who-
don't want to be quiet.
Be quiet.
I'll define my terms if you want
Be
me to.
He's the one who fucking pressed him on what does a lot mean? What is unprecedented? What is mass rape? What he's the one who fucking is pressed the semantical argument far more than Destiny has. This projection 101.
quiet.
But wokeism
Be
is from you
quiet.
guys'
It
ears.
took me about 10 minutes to get you to define woke. I'm glad we did it. Now we can have
Now
the
you're gonna
actual
use my
discussion.
definition. I'm glad I could
Now
provide
we
you
can
with
have
one.
the
Go
actual
for it.
discussion.
Okay.
Now we can have the actual discussion. So if your understanding of the question is, has far left progressive politics made our societies worse? I completely agree with your definition, and I agree with the premise of the question that it has made things worse for a number of reasons. I mean, the trans thing
That wasn't the premise.
became a big talking point because it's so ridiculous, not because it's so hugely actually impactful.
That
on
was the
society,
question,
although I
not
do
the
think
premise.
a small number of children being given puberty blockers and an even smaller number of children being given gender transition surgery is a terrible thing that's happened.
You know what? That fucking number of children getting surgeries is fucking zero. And also, like, anytime you have, like, now if you're talking about, like, teens who get gender affirming care, more often than not, it's not a trans kid. It's like a little boy who's got mastitis or whatever that's called, where they have breasts and they want to get their breasts removed because they're a little boy. They want to present it as a little boy. Or puberty blockers are often given to little girls who start to exhibit signs of going into puberty at like the age of like fucking 8 and shit. So all of these measures that go to help trans kids didn't start with trans kids and don't just help trans kids. And then also just the whole, to even introduce the fact that they act like surgeries are happening where like little boys are having, you know, their penises removed or whatever at 12 years old or some shit. Like you would think that the people who get so angry and up in arms about this would just stop and think for a second about how like unplausible that is, even with like the abortion thing he's talking about. Like the reason that's even a thing is because you know, all these pro-life people believe that somehow a 9-month-old, you know, baby can be, you know, delivered and then killed on the table because that's just a late term abortion, you know what. So it's just the shit these people believe is so ludicrous. And I think the people who are on the left have a hard time grasping that you could actually believe this shit. Like, you really think that this is what's happening? Like, it's ludicrous, but they do because they're fucking stupid. Like, literally, at the end of the day, they're dumb.
I think more broadly, though, I mean,
He's dumb.
one of the most obvious examples is we now have a society which has, I mean, it's not codified and it's not expressed in, you know, in the, like, no one says publicly we now discriminate against these groups of people, unless occasionally they do. So, for example, the Royal Air Force in this country, when they were in a recruiting drive, they were really struggling to get pilots. and there was a woman there who got fired from the Royal Air Force because she refused to go along with the policy. Her supervisor said to her, "We're not hiring any more useless straight white men." She said, "I don't agree with this policy, it's discriminatory," and she was fired. We've had a system of anti-male, anti-white.
Can I just ask a quick question? So if
No,
I were to look
I'm not
that up,
finished
the
yet.
Royal Air
I'm
Force
not
had a
finished
policy
yet.
of not hiring straight white
I'm
men.
not finished yet.
Is that true?
I'm not finished yet.
Okay. I have a feeling it's not, but okay.
So you can. This is something you can look up. It was covered extensively in the news in this country. Probably wasn't covered that well on Wikipedia where you did the research, but
No, but on the Sun and all of your favorite publications, I'm sure they talked about it a lot.
No, actually, it was covered extensively across.
Those are like the tabloidy
Was that
kind
the Royal Air Force
Can
was
I
not
finish
hiring
my
straight
points,
white men?
Stephen?
Well, you seem to
Stephen,
respond to some things, but
just
not others.
well-
So that wasn't the policy. I can tell because you're not answering
That
but that's okay.
was the policy that was pursued by the Royal Air Force. It was revealed by this whistleblower who was fired.
You
for
hear him
revealing
saying this.
The
It was the
BBC in this country
policy.
has internships that are not available to white people. We effectively have created a system of passive, tacit, sometimes open discrimination against different groups of people. And one of the reasons that the sort of reactionary sentiment, which you
I have thoughts,
me as
but
representing, which I don't,
I wanna
is
get there.
rising in this country and rising quite quickly, including ethno-nationalist sentiment, is because of this. And the reason I opposed wokeness from the very beginning and far-left progressivism from the very beginning was that it was obvious to me that the number one consequence of pursuing radical left-wing progressivism and racial essentialism of this kind would be that the majority population would begin to pursue identity politics for itself. If you discriminate against white men and say so openly, it's going to be a very short period of time before white men look at that and say, well, if we're now picking people for jobs based on skin color, I am the oppressed minority now, or I'm the oppressed majority now. We need to look after my interests. And the reason you see the reactionary forces rising both in
majority
America, in the rest of Europe and in this country is precisely because they've been pushed into this corner by woke leftists. And that is one of the major ways that this movement...
because they've been made uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable.
So,
You hear
I
that?
would
See,
say the least
he
impressive
has
thing
people
about
who
conservative predictions is typically what they'll do.
boost
is they will
his
build their
fucking
own
shit.
Enemies. They will cry about the enemies, and then when they manage to convince everybody else that those enemies are real, and then those people react against those enemies, they try to say that, well, it was the enemies in the beginning that caused this particular problem to come about. And I guess the issue that I have is when it comes to woke-related stuff.
Sounds like
it's hard
Hitler to
find
me.
ever, like, what are the particular DEI policies or affirmative action policies that we're talking about? It's always some vague allusion to airlines don't want to hire white pilots, or they lower their standards for black pilots, or these things that tend to not exist when you actually.
And they
dig it down
don't-
now. I don't know,
and it's
maybe
not
the
true.
case that
Yeah.
the Royal Air Force actually had a policy of not hiring straight white
did,
men.
yeah.
Okay, I'll look into that. I'm curious about
This
that.
is the third time, right, that he's confirmed that this is a
I'll look into
policy
it. Maybe it was true.
of the
You know,
Royal
I
fucking
would say
Air
that that's-
Force.
That's not a
Okay.
good thing, that you shouldn't be doing stuff like that. But I
Okay.
guess the issue I have is when you talk about magnitude, I think you said earlier that sometimes people fixate on these issues a little bit too much, but it's because they're such common sense issues.
I still can't get over the
When I look at the
oppressed
United States right now,
majority.
how many trans people are there? How many people are doing
The
stuff
oppressed
related to
majority,
trans people?
friends.
The number of people is incredibly small. It's like 1%. And the idea that that would somehow cause so much of a population to become reactionary that as of 30 minutes ago, I'm pretty sure Iran has tried to bomb like 7 different countries.
That's exactly
because they
right.
have a
This was the
president
very
who is a
first day
madman who is going on a rampage against the entire world
of the
insofar
Iran
as
war.
trade and bombs goes. I just can't, in my mind, rationalize how so many of these smart people I'll say in the center like you who say, well, I can obviously identify that this is a problem. Why don't you ever identify any of these super obvious problems on the right, or any of the super obvious problems that are reactionary to the other things that were reactionary, especially when the issues in the United States on the right are represented through every single pylon of power that the conservatives have. And on the left, they're in colleges and on
Twitter
and Facebook and
yep.
sometimes in AI world on Sora.
This is an article from Sky News. Could you just read out what it says, please?
So the whole time,
So I
right?
see
He didn't
the
hear a
anthem right
fucking
here
word
is,
he said.
Read out
Applicants,
the headline.
well, I don't know if this is a headline or if this is a...
Read out the headline.
Okay, so it says applicants seeking to join RAF described as useless white male pilots in bid to hit impossible diversity targets. Just to be clear, just so I can understand.
Thank you.
Is this headline the same as no straight white men were hired? Or
No.
they had a policy of not hiring straight white... Wait. I'm just so curious. Do you understand the difference between somebody not being hired because they're white, because I'm not going to sit, if you're going to ask me, like, do you think there were ever racist people or even against white people? Of course there are. But you understand there's a difference between the entire Air Force having a policy of not hiring straight white men versus, I guess there was an email where some straight white candidates were skipped over. I don't even know if it was because they didn't meet qualifications or not. They used white men to describe them, but they also called them useless. I don't know if it was because they were white or not. You know there's a difference between those two things, right?
So you don't know this story?
Do you know there's a difference between those two things or no?
Yes, I do. Now,
Okay, thank you. Okay, gotcha. Because I was asking for evidence of mine, but you gave me that. So like I said initially, I had a feeling if I looked this up, it wasn't going to be
you ever gonna
what
let
you
me
presented
talk?
it as. Yeah, no, go for it.
Okay. So you just denied the existence of this and you questioned it.
I did not deny the
Stop
existence
talking.
of that, but go
Stop
ahead.
talking.
You seem to have a
Stop
lot of trouble
talking.
following what I'm saying.
Stop
but that's
talking.
Okay. Okay.
You hear the stall
Look,
because
the only way to have a conversation
he
is when
fucking
people
got
talk to each other.
mollywopped.
It's not. The only way to have a conversation is when two people are making a good faith effort to understand each other.
Thank
My
you.
question was,
Right.
did the RAF have a policy of not hiring
Yes.
straight white men?
Yes.
You showed me an email that said there were
That they
applicants
had
that
that
were
policy.
rejected that were called useless white male pilots or whatever.
They rejected applicants in a bid to hit diversity targets, which means they discriminated against white men in favor of other groups.
Yes, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that in this particular email, but that doesn't mean that they were not hiring any straight white men
I
for
didn't
some...
say they were not
Or that it was a
hiring any straight white
policy,
men.
like
I
he
said
said
they were
it was
discriminating
3
against them
times.
in favor of other people to hit diversity targets, which were described
The
by people
goalposts
who were
just-
charged with recruiting them as impossible to hit. In other words, they were deliberately undermining both the efficacy and the fair treatment of people in their hiring policies because of DEI.
Okay, so this...
you get it now?
Yeah, the position you have now, yes. And that
Okay,
sounds more
good.
realistic, that there might have been a hiring policy that favored some groups of people that weren't white over the
Right.
white ones
Right.
to cause them to get hired when it might have been in a blind trial, the white people would have been hired otherwise. Yes.
Right.
Do you understand that that's significantly different than you saying the RAF had a policy of not hiring straight white pilots? First of all, I don't know what straight had to do with... Are you bi? Do you get like a special application on the...
Well, I'm sure you'd want to know the answer to that question, but
I wouldn't because I would never become British. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But-
Yo. The old switcheroo. That was brilliant. That was so fucking brilliant. Because Destiny's bisexual. So that's where Konstantin thought he was getting some kind of dig at him. And then to say, I would never be British. Chef's chef's fucking kiss. So smart. But also, again, it lets you see his mask drop. To mock someone for being bisexual is like claiming that they're a bad person or something's wrong with them. Like he does not like you because you're bi. Like he literally is expressing his bigotry and his homophobia. Whoop. So like, yeah, just saying again, they fucking know. They know how shitty they are.
So I think I've just look.
That
This
was
is why I
amazing.
brought it up because the idea of a conversation is good faith. But if you question anything that I bring up that you don't know anything about, and then say, "Well, I don't believe that this happened," and I present you evidence that it did,
That's not what
happen,
he
and then you still
said.
continue to deny it, I don't see how we can have an actual debate. Now, I never said the RAF hires 0 white pilots. What I said is the policy of discriminating against white men, which has been rife in the rest of society, has created the situation where a lot of people rightly, understandably at least, feel antagonistic about it. That was one of the biggest threats with wokeness, and that is one of the biggest challenges where we are. All your points about Trump and all the rest of it, I don't see how it's relevant, and I think we're going to have a section on Trump coming up. I made the point, I think, about trans, that I think trans...
So he did review the
insanity
question.
of some of the things we've been asked to believe, which is like, if you say you're a woman, you automatically become a woman. I think people rightly balk against that because it's ridiculous. Doesn't mean it's the #1 issue. I've never said it's the #1 issue. In fact, I pointed out it's quite a minor issue in terms of the number of people affected by it. But
I'm just curious, in terms of your shows, of all the social issues you talk about, do you think that the trans stuff is at the top 3?
well, I don't think we've talked about trans for like a year and a half, maybe 1 or 2 episodes in a year and a half.
Okay,
2
do you feel like
years.
for conservatives in general in the United States, do you think that trans is one of the top issues that they talk about. On all the reform stuff that I looked at, trans was listed on a ton of it. It was in the manifesto.
I'm not a Republican conservative in America, so I don't know what they talk about. It's up to them.
Well, who would you have voted for in the last American election?
Who would I have voted for? Donald Trump, for sure.
Okay, so I don't know. Okay.
Doesn't mean that you're a conservative Republican.
Of course it does. Definitionally so.
Thank
you're
you.
voting for the conservative
Jesus
Republican candidate.
Christ.
So if you present me with a small pile of shit and a big pile of shit, and I pick the small pile of shit, you go, oh, you love shit. No.
If the vote is between a guy who resembles the furthest right you can be insofar as how they conceptualize the government
And a
being,
guy who has no brain, yeah, I'll go with the guy with a brain.
So
yeah.
Kamala
Yeah.
Harris, the person who was a DA in California,
Yeah.
who was Attorney
Yeah.
General in
Yeah.
California,
Yeah.
who served as Vice President,
Yeah.
who was a senator in California, versus Donald Trump, who brags about taking and passing 3 cognitive tests in a month.
Yeah.
The dumb person is Kamala Harris there.
Look, I just explained to you that when you make choices between things, it's not because you necessarily love the choice you're making. If you're forced to choose between
'Cause she
two
was
things,
black.
you choose the one that is the lesser.
And a
evil.
woman.
I'm just curious. Over the past,
I agree with
It
a
made
lot of
him
Donald Trump's
uncomfortable,
foreign
y'all.
policy,
Sure,
which
of
is
course
one
you do. I
those-
know you do because you have a conservative view on foreign policy. Over the past 5 years, so you do this thing where you're like, well, I have to choose between two things. When you've had this same
That's
choice,
what an election is. It's a choice between two things.
well, not in the UK, you can vote between a lot of things. We have 2 parties in the
Yes,
US, but
but
that's
in-
okay. I can always educate you in your political system. It's fine. But so my question is, of all these things that you have to
He's
choose
definitely
between,
exhibited the
at
more
what case in the last like 5
nuanced
years have you
understanding
voted
of
for
the
left on,
others'
would vote for the left on
political
versus the
system.
Right. Why do you think everybody perceives you as being right wing then? If you're so centrist, or you
Why
lean
does the
left or right?
BBC think I'm right wing?
Why does everybody, on my side at least, everybody perceives you as being right wing?
Because it's convenient for you, as you've demonstrated in the course of this conversation.
In what way?
I'm about to explain if you just
Okay.
stop talking.
I hope you actually explain.
I will.
Okay, we'll see.
Okay. Can you be quiet while I do?
My mic is down.
Okay, good.
Stop filibustering.
So it's convenient to you in exactly the way that you've demonstrated throughout this conversation, where when I make a good point about anything, you say, you conservatives... And
You
then
think
come
you're
back to
making a
talk
good
about
point,
Republicans in
sir?
America, because it's suits
About
you,
anything?
Because then you can argue against things you came here prepared to argue against, instead of arguing with what I'm actually saying.
What is a
That's
point you
why.
feel like I haven't? First of all, I'm pretty sure the debate topics were related to America. Number one.
Were they?
They were. Number one. That's okay. Number two,
Well,
what is a question
here's
that you
another
feel like
sort
you
of,
said that I accused you of being a conservative and then I pivoted
behind
and
the
didn't
scenes
respond
sort of
to.
a thing. I know for a fact that the questions were actually developed by Konstantin's team. Travis Pangburn said that he approached both parties and was like, what do you want to talk about? Destiny said, I'll debate whatever you want to do. So Konstantin's team are the ones who developed these 3 topics for the debate. And furthermore, they were posted on the website publicly for like months and months and months beforehand. So this man has no excuse whatsoever to not know the questions.
Your point.
Every single thing we've discussed.
Name one of them then.
Every single thing we've
So
discussed.
you can't think of a single one. What did I not respond to for immigration? You didn't bring up a point. You said a bunch of descriptions. You're like, well, this is true. And then that was
You
it.
keep talking over me, which means we're not actually having a discussion.
Because I'm asking you for an example
And
and you're
I'm
trying to
giving you
filibuster.
one. Can you just stop interrupting?
Go ahead. Give me the point.
Can you just stop interrupting?
I'm not even interrupting. I'm waiting for you to
not
finish.
interrupting means when I say something, you don't talk after that.
Stalling.
Okay.
Stalling.
Can I fuck up? Okay, go
There you
ahead.
go. On every single thing that we've discussed, immigration, national identity.
Just one thing. You're not having a conversation. I guess I didn't expect you to check out this early, but I'm asking, is there a single point that you feel like I haven't responded to with substance, and you're saying everything because you realize you don't have
If
an
you want
answer
to have
for
this
that?
conversation by yourself, you're welcome to. But
I feel like I am.
you are, yeah.
I know
You
I
are.
am. Yes,
You
I
are.
know I am. I feel that way. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm speaking to the
'Cause
copy-pasted
you're-
talking points,
you're
and I
not-
can't get an actual answer out of you for anything. I can give you better answers if you're looking for them. Yeah.
Like he's performatively
You guys cry
indignant.
about wokeism and snowflakes and all this stuff so much, but like you guys do it all the time. You made the claim that I'm avoiding answering any of your arguments because I'm calling you a conservative. I think you are a conservative and I labels you as such, but I'm not dodging your arguments. There's not a point you brought up that I've refused to address. That's why I asked you for an example of one, and you weren't able to give one. And that's fine if you're not able to give one, but then don't continue to filibuster and make the claim. Just say, okay, well, I guess maybe that was an unfair thing I said, and here's a point that I'm going to make that I would like you to address. That would be the time where you would say, here's a thing that I brought up, you pivoted and you didn't address that particular thing. That would be a thing you could do
But he
if I was
can't.
actually dodging and pivoting from all your points.
He can't. The performative indignance. The performative fucking indignance. It's all a stalling tactic. And yeah, this some guy was like, "Oh,
I can't hear any.
you gotta go get it, Konstantin. Hang it." It was
Russian agent.
you got this, Pearl.
What does that mean?
Jesus. And then somebody called him like a Russian agent. Yeah.
You're saying that because I'm from Russia and I have opinions you don't
But
like,
even now,
I'm a Russian
it's
agent.
stalling. He's just stalling. He
Why are we
cannot
debating the
fucking
crowd right now. I'm still here.
Is that what
Can
you're
you not
saying?
have
I
a?
just
Can you
can't-
really not answer my questions
I'm
that
just
much?
not very
That's
clear.
he's
Is that what you're saying?
he's calling him out so
Let's
appropriately.
not yell out questions from the audience. Let's not get
So
into that. Let's try to let
stupid.
the dialectic get back on track here.
Simple question. What do you feel like I haven't addressed?
Every single thing that we've discussed.
Okay, let's run it down. So you said I
Immigration.
didn't address immigration, right? My point on immigration is that you guys have fear-mongered about immigration, and every single policy that you've tried to enact has
Every
failed.
time you say you guys, you've already lost the argument because you're not arguing with me.
Okay, well, I asked you for a clear stance on whether or not you thought
I was
Brexit
very
was
clear
good
on
on net.
immigration.
You literally said you would not answer the Brexit question. When I asked if you were God, you could push a button. You literally said, "Well, I don't know.
I don't
couldn't
know."
do that."
Said immigration. Immigration,
No,
not Brexit. Immigration.
Sure. Well,
Brexit's
Brexit was a
part of
the
immigration.
argument, right?
Thank you.
For me.
For the majority of the. Oh my
The
God.
whole fucking
I'm sorry.
The-
Okay. What question did you even pose to me with regards to immigration that you felt like I didn't answer? I don't think you even posed a question to me.
right. Like he
What
fucking
you failed to do.
because his whole
You started
argument
this
was
bit of the
it's a lot
conversation.
and it makes me
Put the microphone
uncomfortable.
down
No,
and listen.
I'm
So
listening.
put the microphone down for a moment and listen.
I'm gonna hold it right here.
Now you carry on. I'm not going to talk if you keep interrupting me. I'm not interested in
I'm
this.
not interrupting
whatever
you.
this is. You are.
I'm literally
He's
not. I'm asking you
stalling.
a question. You just refuse to answer. This is the game. How did I do it again? I'm asking you a clear question. You can't give me an answer.
I'm not going to talk to you unless you listen to what I'm saying as well as me listening
Stalling.
I am listening.
to what you're saying. Okay, good.
Stalling.
So we started this bit of the conversation, right?
He's finally
Talking
grasped
about
on something
the
to
exchange that we
say.
just had. That's what we were talking about, right? And you made your points, and I tried to make my points, and you keep interrupting and talking over me.
No, he
right?
doesn't.
I've addressed immigration.
not.
And I've addressed every single other thing that you brought up. And the moment I do, what you do is you say, well, you conservatives say this, you conservatives say that, in order that you can then argue with things that I haven't said. And that is exactly
But aren't you here to represent the opposition? Like, aren't you here to play the devil's advocate of Destiny's supposed positions when in reality these are all your positions? Like it's like saying it's like the whole oh you can't disprove a negative thing, but Destiny is taking it upon himself to try, and you're not even giving him anything to sink his teeth into. It's also fucking nebulous. Literally, the argue when it comes to immigration, it was does immigration, mass immigration, damage national identity? Who the fuck believes that? If not you, if not conservatives, if not racists, if not xenophobes, like what is the opposite of that? You know, oh, we want mass immigration so that we can alter our national identity. That's the other side of that. But how does that make sense? You know, like how does that make, is that something that you think that people on the left actually walk around believing? Oh man, I just want more immigrants because I can't wait for my culture to change. Like that's, you know, no, nobody gives a fuck. I want immigration because I thought this was a land of the free. I thought it was give us your poor, tired, huddled masses. I thought it was the people could seek the American dream no matter what their origin story was. I thought it helped us out when it came to our replacement numbers. I thought it helped, you know, maybe not the white replacement numbers, or population replacement. It helps. our finances, it helps. These are people who literally don't pay or pay into our tax system, even if they're illegal and they never get into the system to where they're working and they pay social security that they'll never get. Even if they just go to get gas, they're paying tax on that. Even if they go to a store, they're paying sales tax. You know, like literally these are people who in every way, shape, or form are contributing without reaping the benefits of that contribution. Like, what the fuck is wrong with immigration? So people who take the opposite side of what his argument is are in a whole different field of what it is that they themselves are arguing. So he's literally saying immigration bad because it makes the whiteness less white. It makes me uncomfortable. And the opposite side of that can't even fucking enter the room to be engaged with because he's keeping the conversation in hell with him about how many is too many, what is mass, what's unprecedented, whatever the fuck. Like they're bringing crime as if there was never crime here before. You know, like so we can't even get into the actual like leftist arguments because we're stuck here in this bullshit. So like it's just nuts to me, but this is what lets me see what Destiny was talking about. Like like they're dumb. It's dumb. And they think you're dumb because because they believe this bullshit that oh there's all these criminals again that because they somehow got suckered into believing this. They can't fathom that you don't believe it too. That you think the emperor is wearing clothes. You don't see the emperor's clothes? You know, like it's literally fucking crazy. It's the fucking what's that? Don't argue with a idiot because somebody from a distance won't be able to tell who's who or something like that. You know, whatever. I'm never good with the cliches and the quotes and shit. But that's what this is. It's like we're sinking down to their level to try to argue their point for and with them, and they can't even fucking engage in it in good faith or in any sort of rational way because again, it's not rational, it's not logical. So again, I wouldn't have been here. I would have absolutely been honing in on the morality of it. Why is this so important to you? You know, do you genuinely think your comfort is more important than somebody else's survival or right to fucking exist? So that's really where I'm at with this.
What you've done throughout this whole
That's
thing.
crazy.
So when you ask me, why do people say that you're a conservative? It's because it's much more convenient for them than addressing the arguments that I'm actually making. And you've demonstrated that.
Arguments that you yourself won't even fucking address.
Okay. What is the argument that you're making with specificity
right.
to
What is it?
What does Konstantin's ideal immigration policy for Great Britain look like? And who in
That's
the
a very
past
good
have you
question.
supported
White people.
their
More
vision
whites.
for
More white
immigration
people.
to the United Kingdom?
Sorry, because I jumped in, which I
have you,
shouldn't have
because
done.
you interrupted me. Okay.
Second part.
Yeah. No, who have you supported historically over the past 10 years? Whose idea for immigration, I guess, have you supported policy-wise, politician-wise? Who would you support right now? What is your ideal vision for immigration to the United Kingdom?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So
More
my ideal
whites.
vision for immigration in this country would be
Whites.
something like probably 40 to 50,000 people a year, highly selective, which means that you really have to qualify in terms of your skill set, ticking all sorts of other cultural compatibility, age, and so all sorts of other things that basically mean you're likely to be a very positive net contribution to the country.
First of all, that's how it is now in both countries, UK and US. He just admitted that yes, people conflate illegal immigration versus immigration. So if you're saying that there's a million illegal immigrants, which okay, if you're saying there's a million illegal immigrants, that means that there are 10 to the 10 million legal immigrants, right? So of those who are seeking asylum or are refugees, you know, okay, I guess you could question whether or not they are compatible with having to meet that level of scrutiny. But bitch, I'm a fucking UK immigrant, okay? Do you know? I'd literally just re-up my fucking visa. I had to show a savings account with $125,000 in it. And that had been maintained for at least 6 fucking months before they'll even entertain me. It costs £2,500 just to fucking buy into the NHS. And then it's another like £1,500 just to pay for the fucking visa. This is just the financial aspects. They just interrogate every aspect of who you are, what you do, what you bring to the table, your past, your history. You can't have committed a crime. You can't have done shit to fucking offend the government where you are, just in case you do it here. You're asking for a level of scrutiny it can't outshine the level of scrutiny that exists. My husband immigrated to America from England, so I know it's the same exact fucking shit to come to America. So no matter what level of immigration you're talking about, that fucking exists. They highly scrutinize people coming into the country, and you yourself said that that's 10 to 1 to the illegal immigrants that are coming over. So again, what the fuck are you talking about? The real issue clearly isn't the immigration of people who are scrutinized. It's the immigration of brown and black people and Muslims.
You're probably going to have the ability to earn and pay more tax than you receive in benefits over your lifetime. You're unlikely to commit crime. You're unlikely to become a terrorist. You're unlikely to do things that we wouldn't want you to do. You would be highly selective. I think I would definitely prioritize.
You cannot be more selective than you are.
Not from countries really, but from people who already speak the language, who maybe have a cultural familiarity. So Hong Kongers are a good example of this, right? These are people who
because they're white, but they're Asian. So it lets me get away with not just saying white.
Part of the British Empire, speak the language, they're able to come over.
Hong Kongers don't speak
and make a good contribution. So something like 40 to 50,000 people a year. But again, it's a democratic thing. So if the British people vote to have zero immigration, that's their right. If the British people want to have 300,000 people come a year, that's their right.
He just contradicted himself.
We've had with immigration in this country.
Wait, can I ask just real quick?
No, just let me just finish this bit, and then you can ask whatever you want. A part of the problem we've had with immigration in the last 30 years is, despite the fact that people keep voting against mass immigration of the kind that we've had, they keep voting for parties that promise to reduce it in 2010, in 2015, in 2016, in 2017, in 2019, and in 2024.
They did.
In all of those elections, immigration was a major issue.
It went from the million you talk about to 300,000.
What we have today
with Keir Starmer's government.
We've actually had the opposite of what they voted for. So I want managed, highly selective, low numbers, high compatibility, and I want it to be in line with the democratic wishes of the British people.
Okay, so
you hear?
So then, and then a question. So I would argue that the reason why people have voted for lower immigration and they haven't gotten the lower immigration is because I don't think people tend to vote for higher or lower immigration. I think that people vote for where they feel problems are, and I feel like people sometimes scapegoat immigrants as a class of people for why these problems exist. So if housing is high, you vote for less immigrants. Or if the job market is bad, you vote for less immigrants. Or if the NHS wait times are too high, you vote for less immigrants. Or if Brexit is losing too much sovereignty, whatever, you vote for less immigrants. I feel like when it comes to these issues, the immigrants become this catch-all scapegoat, which I'm not even saying, and again, you can label me however you want, but like I'm not a woke person when it comes to immigration. I don't think there's anything wrong with being selective against certain groups of people. But I think that the reason why there's such this pressure for the government, the majority government, to have more immigrants come in is because they know that as much as people might feel a certain type of way about certain types of immigrants, that the collapse of the NHS or the collapse of the education system or the collapse of the local economy is going to be worse than allowing more people to come in and work those jobs. So I guess my question is...
Dude, so many Jamaicans and Africans and Filipinos and fucking Polish people, like it's Indian people. There's so many... Pakistani people, there's so much diversity here. And almost always they're in a nursing role or they're 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 taking on a facet of the government that's had a real dearth. The education system, like all the nurses when my daughter was in the hospital were Filipino, and they all sing and they all sound amazing and they all love Disney, and it's so cute. I love them so much. But yeah, it's he's contradicting himself. And I think whenever you have these contradictions and you peel them apart, you find the racism.
And I'm pushing with a degree of specificity because you speak about these issues a lot. When you say selecting for certain values, like,
For certain.
what is it? What would
White.
test even look like when you say selecting for certain values?
White.
What are the values that you're selecting for? Number one, and then number two, you mentioned like they have to speak the language, and it should be like highly skilled people that can contribute net tax positives to the economy.
Which,
Let's
again,
assume they've
that's
met the
what it
threshold
is.
for all of these things. Why cap it at 30 or 40,000 if they can integrate perfectly? If they speak the language of them, why not have like 100 or 200 or 300,000 of these people coming in?
It's a very good question. For me, I am less attached to the numbers. I just think where culturally Britain is at the moment is that's what the British people would want. For me, it's the numbers are. Joseph Stalin said quantity has a quality all of its own, and I think there's a truth to that, which is once you have very large numbers of people coming.
You think
on
there's
in
a
short
truth to
period
some
of time,
shit Stalin
it is
said?
disruptive,
Fuck you,
for the
dude.
reasons we've already discussed, and it also can put pressure on infrastructure. The reason, by the way, we haven't had.
If
the
you haven't
policy on
seen The
mass
Death of
immigration that
Stalin,
people voted for, isn't,
go watch that fucking movie.
I mean, I agree with you. Of course, there are some people who scapegoat immigrants to explain
Like
the
you.
problems that society has.
Of
And
course I
don't
know him.
agree with
He's me.
scapegoating immigrants. That doesn't mean mass immigration is necessarily good. One of the problems with mass immigration is it's effectively been used in Europe to cover up the fact that our economies are not growing. Our economies are shrinking on a per capita basis. We are poorer per capita in this country today than we were before the financial crisis. And the reason we haven't had the policy of controlled immigration that people keep voting for is that bringing in more bodies is the only way politicians can pretend our economy is still growing. That's actually the main
So
reason
what
for this.
you're saying is that immigrants help the economy to grow. That's what you're just laying out for us right now.
Okay, so I guess my question is, what are the values, or what are the things that you would select for when you talk about like a values-based test for people coming to the country? Like, what are the things that you're talking about? And then also just a comment on, the reason why we're bringing in immigrants is to shore up an economy. I think a lot of that has to do with the boomer generation as well, that you had a lot of people come back from wars, or stay for wars, I guess, for your guys' case, but in the United States we say come back. And then you had this aging population that had a ton of kids, and now these people have all hit a certain age, so you're kind of at this weird demographic age thing, which is why they're bringing in a bunch of younger workers now to kind of fix that issue, because you've got a lot of benefits and your triple lock pension, whatever else, all these things, Social Security in the United States. Yeah.
Well, that's part of it, but the problem is if you're bringing people who are net consumers of tax revenue, then you're not solving that problem, you're making it worse, right? And that's what's been happening in the UK. So when you have
But again,
mass unskilled or very low-skilled immigration
it's
plus lots of dependents, you're actually bringing in people who are then
so fucking racist of all the dependents they're bringing in, and they're taking so much from the government. So what he's referring to is, again, like where we have to put up like asylum seekers and refugees and stuff. But those are the only people who are receiving some level of care or financial help from the government. Illegal immigrants don't get any of that shit. How could they? How could you? If the government doesn't know about you, how is it paying you? And then also, so that's this conflation of asylum seekers and stuff with illegality again. But then also, these people pay sales tax, they pay, or VAT, they pay gas tax, they pay into the system more than they'll ever get out. And then also, he himself said it's only like 1 to 10 of all of immigration. So even if they were the people who were needing the help, it's not the majority of immigrants. So again, why does he want to cap it? Why does he want, why does he want to act like the very processes that he went through, and maybe was just too young when he came over to know how involved it is to immigrate to the UK and how much you do have that scrutiny? To even call for more of that, like as if it doesn't exist right now, is crazy.
going on benefits in this country, which I have no idea why it is in this country that we allow foreign citizens to receive benefits. It doesn't make any sense to me. But what happens is you then effectively
It's asylum seekers.
net consumers of tax revenues, and you're making that problem worse, which is why I say it isn't.
I'm here on a family visa. I can't receive benefits. I'm paying into the NHS. I cannot receive benefits. Like, it's literally on my little Visa card. Like, I cannot receive benefits. And I'm an immigrant to the UK, a legal immigrant to the UK. So, like, I know for a fact that's not true. They don't get fucking benefits. The only people getting benefits are the people who are on, like, some sort of an asylum scheme, which is legal. Okay? So just don't listen to this dude. It's like
It's the fact that politicians
conflation after conflation, stalling to just try to figure out another conflation to say.
0.1% or whatever it is. It's still not even growing even on that basis. But the reason they bring in lots and lots of people is so that they can add to the total tax base without having consideration of what happens when you divide that by the number of people, which is you're getting poorer.
Okay, so then let's say that everything you just say is true. And I would agree that bringing in people...
But they bring in people to show that the economy is being boosted.
Schema that you have in the
How does that make sense if
let's assume that is happening.
you're poor?
Then why not speak to changing those policies rather than attacking the concept of like, well, 200,000 people came in and they're all leeching from the welfare? Why not just say that, if people want to try to immigrate, we'll do this. However, we're going to forbid people from qualifying for this much welfare. In the United States, you have to make a certain amount of money to qualify for visas or, long permanent resident cards, green cards or whatever. Why don't I ever hear a conversation about that, changing the incentives?
Well, that's exactly what I advocate for all the time. That's literally what I say every time I talk about immigration.
Okay,
No.
that's good, but because I feel like I just heard you talk a lot about it, and it was just reducing the number, high-skilled only, reducing the number, but having like a cap on...
The thing you just described is literally what I advocate for on a daily basis.
Okay, I hear you talk a lot about the other stuff, but maybe I've just happened to miss those things.
The thing that what I believe about immigration, one of the problems is, because for the reasons we've already discussed, when you've had this open border policy combined with, the
There it is, open border. There's no fucking open border. There hasn't been an open border since fucking Ellis Island was bringing people in. And even then, they had to go through like a registration process and be identified and have passports. And like, there's never been an open border for America or the UK or for pretty much anywhere in Europe. That's why Brexit is a thing, because they wanted to limit the travel between Britain and the rest of Europe, because every place has borders. So like there's no open borders to be found anywhere that I could think of. Like what country has an open border? I don't know.
A lot of resentment with other people against immigrants. And the reason you see people now on the internet talking about, Britain's been colonized and Britain's been invaded. I don't like that language. I understand why people use it, but I don't like it. And the reason I don't like it is I don't blame people for wanting to come to Britain. Britain's great. Of course they'd want to come here.
You don't think that. You don't think that. You don't think Britain's great at all. I think Britain's great. I love it here. I wish I'd come sooner. I'm so lucky that I married a man who is from here and who agreed with me that this would be the better place to raise our children. And it is. The education system, the healthcare system, the food is amazing, the diversity. I love it. It's great. The public transit system, the fucking council system, the news, the fucking literally everything. I can't think of a fucking thing that is not smashing America. So like, yeah, and then the fact that he's coming from fucking Russia. He's coming from Russia to this amazing country and he hates it. He hates Britain because Britain is diversity. So anyway, that's it for me. Here's my baby. Oh, honey. Oh, honey. Oh, you coughing so bad. Ah, your hands are cold. And I just came in from the cold. Okay. Okay. Destiny won. Destiny won 5 minutes in, if that. If I'm probably being very conservative. I mean, he just dusted this man. Like literally every single logical fallacy that you could think of. I'm sure Stephen Woodford, who's got the fallacies on lock, was watching. Like, yeah, he's doing projection. He's doing a Mott and Bailey. Oh, now he's doing an appeal to authority. Like, I'm sure he was listing them off, but it was just one after the fucking other. And Destiny just did not fold. He did not fall into any of them. He kept the conversation about whatever the topic was. He forced Konstantin to stay on the point and to really be pointed with his questions and his answers, which he never did, of course. It got to a point where Destiny like broke him. He fucking broke him, man. Like he literally was like, "Stop talking, stop interrupting me, Dustin." And you know when they start doing that shit, it's such a like a filibuster method to give them a second to regroup. And I feel like Destiny did again. He just didn't fall for it. He like kept pushing, kept pushing, kept pushing. But unfortunately, it just broke him. It got to a point where Konstantin was like, and it was to the point where the audience was like, "You got this, Konstantin." And then he started trying to like engage with the audience a little bit. And Travis, who was moderating, Mr. Pangburn, "Nah, nah, nah. We're gonna keep this. We're gonna keep this between the two. You guys jump back in." And it was amazing because I think from there, after he sort of brain broke, I think Destiny, he pulled back a little bit in order just to keep the conversation going. So they did start talking. The rest of the debate was very much a good back and forth. Even with it being more conversational after that, it was still like point to Destiny, point to Destiny. Like he just dominated. It was beautiful. Destiny won. He was magnificent, but he still was very much in this realm of facts and figures and law and history. And it was kind of like, okay, I just really wish you. And at one point he got him to admit that he was more concerned about like the white nationals and stuff. So that was cool. But I just feel like he really could have wiped the floor with him in the morality space. And Constantine even at one point was like, "We're not talking morality, we're talking to," and so I could tell for a fact that that would have been the place to really hammer him down. But given that he brain broke so fast just on being asked to answer a fucking question and not slither away from getting out of answering a fucking question, I think Destiny did well. Because if he had, like, if it had been me, there's no way I'm going to let you walk out of there still believing you're a good person. Like that's just, so I think that to brain break him on such a nominal thing and such a trivial thing, I think going so hard with addressing his view of himself might have been probably would have been a little too much. So yeah, I'll offer my thoughts, but for the most part, I think he did such a great job and he towed the line really well. So after the debate, I got a chance to chat with Destiny a bit because we were walking up to the restaurant where we had our little post event, little get together. So it did come up, of course, that, you know, he brain broke Konstantin. And I said, "Oh, but at least, you know, after that, he stayed in the conversation. You were able to bring it back around to where at least you guys could continue the discussion." And Destiny said something that really surprised me. He was like, "No, that's not what I would have preferred because just having the discussion to have the discussion is one of the very things I lifted up that I hate. I don't like that we sit here and say, 'Oh, we're talking about it. This is good,' when no real substantive change has occurred or no real impact has been felt." And so I was like, "Oh, okay, well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense." But I also feel like he had to do that. He had to thread that needle, because if Konstantin got so fed up that he got up and walked away, I mean, then what's to be had from that? So, I could see his disappointment, but the fact that he was professional enough and smart enough to walk that line as carefully as he did, I think that's a testament to his skill. During the poster signing, the very first person to run up to Konstantin's side of the table for a signature was a North African immigrant with a heavy accent. He was like, "This is my third time seeing you, Konstantin. Yo, everybody." He bought the book. He was so excited to get it signed. He's like, "Can I take pictures with you?" And I mean, like, he was just a true fan. And it wasn't, and I'm like, well, maybe he doesn't realize, like, that this guy doesn't care for him at all. So I was talking to Tom, who's mixed race, and I was like, I didn't realize that you guys had Uncle Tom's over here too. Oh yeah. So it was just so funny to me, because I had no idea. I didn't realize that there were tokens in England, or in Europe. But there you go. And speaking of tokens, that's the thing that rubs me the wrong way the most about Konstantin, is that he every 5 fucking seconds has to say, "Well, I'm an immigrant. I'm an immigrant. I'm an immigrant, so I can speak to this. I'm not being xenophobic because I'm an immigrant. I'm not being racist because I'm not. So it's like, no, brother, you're a white person still at the end of the day. you know, you're still not in a marginalized group, my friend. Okay." And so the fact that his fucking book is an immigrant's love letter to the West, you just cannot get 2 seconds, even on trigonometry. Oh, we're both immigrants. We're both immigrants. It's his way of tokenizing being an immigrant. And so it's just the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard in my life. I think it's really disrespectful. And as a UK immigrant myself, who is in a marginalized group, I absolutely hate that he feels like he has that right. Because he doesn't. Because again, you can come from fucking France and be called an immigrant, but if you're a white Frenchman, you're still going to be treated in a completely different way than, that same Ethiopian brother who got up and was kissing his ass so much. It's just insane. Destiny so very clearly won. Like, his arguments were so much more strong, and Konstantin's basically consisted of, like I thought they would, "Oh, it makes me uncomfortable. I don't like it." There were so many people who come over here, and they don't speak our language, and I don't like it. And that was the crux of his fucking argument. But afterwards, I'm not going to say surprised, but very much saddened to still see that he had a great deal of support. Like, there were so many people that came up to say, "Oh, I appreciate you bringing, this conversation to the forefront. And yeah, it needs to be said. And thank you for having the bravery to say these things," and blah, blah, blah. And there was even a daughter-father couple that came up, and the father was like, "I'm going to buy the book and just please sign this. And yeah, you need to keep this conversation going. And thank you for saying all of this." And the daughter was like, "Yeah, I was here for Destiny." But then Konstantin was like, "Well, when you get to be your dad's age, you'll start to agree with him." And I'm like, what a sad world this is, where that's probably, it's not true for her. I think when people are, of a liberal mindset, it's hard to get rid of that. But the fact that you can rely on the older generation to just be bigoted and be comfortable in their bigotry is really quite sad to me. And Konstantin's, I'm probably older than him. Jesus, I'm gonna look up how old he is. Oh my God, we're the exact same age. We're the exact same age. I'm 43, he's 43, and my kids are here. My final thoughts on Konstantin, I just feel like if you were to look up the word smarmy in the dictionary, you'd find him there. Yeah. So, but Destiny though, like I really didn't get to talk to him much afterwards. I hate I didn't get a picture. I didn't really get to have much more conversation with him after that, but I was able to kind of fill out my bingo card of signatures on my little poster, so I was happy about that. For the after party, we went to this amazing restaurant. I booked a reservation in advance. So here's the thing. I am the head moderator of Digital Ground Game, which is Destiny's political action arm. So if you're interested, go to digitalgroundgame.org. It's an amazing organization. We're doing really big things in America and even internationally, as you can tell, because all this is happening in London. So we have where on Digital Ground Game, there are different regions in America that you could become a part of to help in the South or to help in the West or whatever the case is. But we also have an international squad, which I'm a part of. I'm also in the South squad because I'm from North Carolina. North Carolina, come on, right? Okay. But international squad is everywhere else. So Canada to Japan to Australia to England. We have people everywhere. So I was like, anybody in the European area, come to London. If you can't quite make the debate, at least come out to the after party, you know? So I put all the feelers out and I got like 3 signups. So I was like, okay, cool. We're going to at least meet 3 people that I hadn't met before, but I've talked to. So it's going to be cool. That's not how it ended up. So so we go to the restaurant that I reserved 6 seats at because I was like, yeah, let's just be we'll have a couple extra seats in case even more people come. But so many people followed us down from the event that we ended up having like 12, 15 folks come, and so I was like, yeah, I know I reserved a table for 6, but are we able to accommodate these folks? And let me tell you, it was begrudging. It was begrudging. They did not like that we came with so many people. So to Tufnell Park Tavern, I'm so sorry that we did that to you guys. But at the same time, that's business you guys that got that you weren't going to get before. So I hope it was an even trade-off. And I will say that, you know, they were very kind. Once they got us all sat down, they were very kind. The service was amazing. And the fucking food, Jesus Christ. It was so good. I got a steak. I'll show a picture. I had to take a picture. It was so freaking amazing. It was called a bavette steak with a chimichurri sauce on it. I got a lemon tart little dessert. It was probably the best thing I've ever put in my mouth. It was so good. Don't let my husband hear me say that. And so we did end up having a great deal of folks come down. So Tilly came. I don't think Stephen Whipper was able to make it, but Travis Pangburn came out, and then Destiny came out. So that was really, really so sweet. It was a nice way to get to meet some of my international squad people, some of the people I've talked to on Discord, some of the people who texted me right before the event, like, hey, I heard this is going on. Can I come? And then, of course, just the folks who saw us migrating down from the event and came to eat and break bread with us as well. All right, that's it for me. I'm off to edit since I can do that with one hand. But thanks for listening to my thoughts on at least half of it. We got through quite a bit. That's good. All right, again, it's so late in the game. Like I don't know if anybody's gonna see this, but if you're watching, thanks for checking in. Make sure you stand with Destiny. He's one of the only forces out here combating this kind of ignorance and rhetoric and bigotry. So if you are able, please go to digitalgroundgame.org. It is his political action arm. So it's all about, you know, putting into effect the maybe negative feelings you're having about the war and about Trump and about just what's happening in America. It gives you a way to fight back against it with your voice, with your skills, with your time. So join us, digitalgroundgame.org, And I'll see you on the next Stand with Destiny.